Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 6th episode of the story in which Naruto has the Kyuubi sealed inside him, but with an unusual twist. The sealing has changed, and a new bloodline has emerged. Naruto intends to use these abilities to become Hokage and change Konoha's clans. Will he survive long enough to carry out the changes? This story is from Tongues. Please support him, her. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Let's get the show started. Naruto awoke to the sound of an angry alarm clock beeping as loudly as possible right next to him. 5 o'clock, not a good time of the morning to get up. He was alone in his bed, his wives snuggled up in their own rooms so as to avoid being awakened by said alarm clock that early. The reason Naruto was up this early. His team. Apparently, they like to start early. Dragging himself out of bed, Naruto ambled into the shower. He'd slept naked that night, it being rather warm in the room, so he simply walked in. Dozing while showering, he stayed there for a good 15 minutes, but decided to get out before he became a human prune. He eventually made his way out and back to his room, and put on his clothes. A black t-shirt with a cross outlined in light green, a green jounin vest, his white coat which not had 2 attachments on the back to hold his sword, the bronze chain of every changing size and shape, a pair of black ANBU pants, and black combat boots. A kunai holder on his right thigh, equipment pouch on his left hip, key on his back, and Naruto was ready to go. Activating his Fuingen, he lit up all 14 kanji seals and used the Hiruzen to get to the training ground in a matter of seconds. It was exactly 5:30, too early for breakfast, so he had no problems with simply arriving. There in front of him stood his battle-ready genin squad. "Hey guys!" Shinomura snorted. "And girl!" Naruto muttered. Vlad got up from his meditation state and began his usual tirade. "When am I gonna get my familiar? I thought you said I had to get him when I was 12, he asked in a whiny voice. "I told you. I gave you the scroll, you know how to get him. Next time we get a mission to Rock Country, you can go find that forest or something and get your familiar, okay? Let's just get our mission," Churo complained. "I agree," Naruto said, nodding sagaciously. "Follow." With that he began walking in the direction of the tower. However, his team had a different idea. Deactivating their gravity seals, they sped by him at about the speed of Rock Lee when he was a genin. Craning her neck around, Shinomura stuck out her tongue as they continued to the tower. Sighing, Naruto thought to himself every single time. Will they ever learn? In an instant Naruto was in front of the Hokage tower, and saw his team running towards him, in the distance. When they arrived, Naruto just asked, "What took you so long?" They were panting heavily, and reactivated their seals before responding with, "Hey, we can't do that, it's not fair." "No, you could do it, you just don't know how. Maybe one day I'll show you the old-fashioned version," Naruto said, tauntingly. "Really?" Churo said, his eyes filling with hope. He'd seen how some girls looked at Naruto when they saw him appear from nowhere, standing proud but acting as if nothing had happened. No one liked the big-boned people. Well, except for when they grew up to be muscled. But Churo had a long way to go to get there. "Nope. Family. Secret," Naruto said in a pleasant tone. Churo just looked angry. Entering the building, the 3 genin and jounin made their way upstairs to where missions were being handed out by the only chunin who bothered to get up that early, Hajiro Timio. This was probably because he slept during the day and went out at night, like those vampire things in children's stories. He'd be a jounin if it wasn't for his odd condition, but then, no one really paid much attention to it when compared to his personality. He was, for all intents and purposes, insane. He would change his personality once every weeks, regardless of circumstances. This week he was pleasant. "Hiya Naruto-san. Here for a mission?" he said cheerily. He was wearing a bright blue shirt with his chunin vest over it, and white slacks. He had no kunai holsters or shuriken holsters, his forehead protector resting over on his bicep. In fact, he had really no talents at all, it was just his eyes. They were bright green and no threatening. Right now. 2 weeks ago Naruto had to seal them away and unseal the again later when picking up a mission on a weak Timio decided to be mean. Yup. Got any for Rock Country? Got a branker there. Your team up for it? Well, they've got me, don't they? Point. So, the big day is in a week, I hear? You better be back by then. Getting rid of ninjas on the border doesn't take long for you though, so it shouldn't be a big problem, right? Yeah, big day is in a week. You got your invitation, right? Pick a happy mood for next week. Will do. It was one of their more pleasant conversations. Leaving the tower, Naruto gathered his team together and sat them down on a table in a nearby cafe to talk about the mission. Asuka, Vlad, Churro, we're gonna have to do this mission quickly. Now, I know you want to get your familiar, so we'll do that first. Afterwards, on the way back, we're gonna be quick about taking them out. For now, increase your gravity seals to 4x and use chakra to support yourself. We're moving full speed. Also, when we arrive, Vlad needs to get his familiar alone, so stay with me. We'll be in enemy territory for a little while, so there will be no talking unless I give the okay. Now, go get set for a week-long mission. We leave from the East Gate at 8. It was 6:30 at the time, so that left Naruto an hour or so to kill. Going to a grocery store that had just opened, Naruto filled a few scrolls with food and ate a bagel for breakfast. Then, heading to the East Gate, Naruto waited. Soon his team arrived, and they left. Moving quickly, it took only a few hours to make it to the border. Grabbing the 3 genin, Naruto teleported them all to the forest, which was actually pretty close to the border according to the map. After an hour of searching, they found the edge, and walked in towards the middle. Reach a small clearing. Naruto gave orders for Churro and Asuka to go do the kunai balancing exercise. Grumbling, they moved off to the side of the clearing and stuck 2 kunai each into the ground, the blunted edges facing up. Jumping up, they landed on their fingers and used chakra to suspend themselves, this time on the first try, and tried to hold it as long as they could. Naruto, seeing that they would be fine with their exercise, went to the center of the clearing, Vlad trailing him. Taking out a bottle of ink, Vlad began drawing the only seal he knew, an intricate 4-foot diameter summoning location seal. This particular seal was one Naruto couldn't project for him, since it wouldn't be his chakra going into it. Finishing the seal, Vlad nodded to Naruto, who walked off to instruct Churro and Asuka on how to do it with 1 kunai instead of 2. Vlad, giving himself a little reassurance, began the chant he'd memorized from the scroll, while channeling his chakra into the scroll. Immortal sinks into decay, newborn dragon yearns to slay, let the winds of jungle's night stay the hunter in her flight, evening's breath to elder's mind, let our fates be intertwined, dragon do not pass me by, show me where thine young doth lie, let our lives become another, let thy child become my brother, live life through mind's interplay and we shall rise from ashes gray. Soon a winged figure dropped from the canopy of the forest. It was about 8 feet tall with a 20-foot wingspan. It was bronze-colored, and covered in scales. Its eyes were yellow, and its mouth full of sharp teeth. A tail swung around behind it, the end shaped like a flame. It had no hands, just large feet on which it had 3 toes with claws protruding. In one claw was an egg. The dragon, assumedly the mother, landed just before the location seal, which disappeared, and took a look at Vlad. Name yourself, the apparently female dragon roared. Vladimir Taltos. Vlad said in a cautious tone, taking a step away from the dragon who had come mere inches within stepping on his foot. Taltos, eh? The dragon chuckled, which was a little unsettling. So you're the last one? Vlad shuddered slightly at the thought of his lack of family, which did not go unnoticed by the dragon. "I am sorry, I didn't mean it that way." However, the gigantic dragon apologizing was still more unsettling. Getting down to business, the dragon spoke again. "So you request my son to be your familiar? What makes you think you are worthy of the last of the dragons, the prince no less?" "The last?" Vlad stuttered out. "Why yes. The rest were familiars to your clan. We lived with them in peace for as long as our lives ran. Some called them immortal, but that is not true. When we die, you die with us. We are like an extra life, you can be mortally wounded, but not killed so long as your familiar lives. So, what makes you think yourself worthy to be under our protection? I want to rebuild the Taltos clan. I will help rebuild the clan, and thus rebuild yours, right? I read the scroll, so far as I can tell, when a Taltos calls for a familiar, it allows a dragon to be born. If I rebuild the clan, will you grant me your son? I find this exchange fair, young one. His name is Ruji, and he is now yours." The dragon then flew off, leaving a hatching egg which was soon cracking. Picking up the egg, Vlad felt a tugging on his mind. It soon hatched, and the tiny dragon popped out. In his mind, Vlad could hear it speaking. "Mama," Ruji said. Vlad twitched slightly at this, but decided to correct it early. "No. Daddy." "Mama," the small being agreed, before using its legs to climb up onto Vlad's shoulder. Nestling into his neck, Ruji soon fell asleep, and Vlad returned to the other side of the clearing to explain what just happened to his very confused teammates. After the explanation, basically explaining that in exchange for the help of the royal dragon family he would have to rebuild his clan, Asuka began blushing, thinking of how she would change her last name from Shinomura to Taltos, before silencing her inner fangirl and turning her attention to Naruto, who was now talking. "Okay, we need to make this quick. It's too late to set out now, so we make camp here today and set out at nightfall when we will be able to sneak attack the rogue rock Nines. Keep in mind, this is a prank. If an enemy is too hard for you to fight, back off, run. I will make a big enough distraction. Hopefully, there won't be too many of them." Nightfall, Naruto and his team were making their way along the border trying to find the camp when Naruto suddenly stopped his team. Motioning for them to stay behind, Naruto performed an invisibility genjutsu and moved on ahead. Soon he came to the site where the rogues were at, but they weren't rogues. They all had Rocknin headbands, none with scratches in them, and this wasn't just a camp. About 2,000 or so assorted genin, chunin, and jounin were in the base, which could probably hold another 1,000 if need be. These weren't rogues, they were the outlying post of an army. Naruto moved a few yards back into the deep forest, and began thinking about what this could mean. Why would they want to send out for a mission, only for its members to find the army? Why would they want to spoil the element of surprise? Suddenly, a scream broke him from his thoughts. Keeping the genjutsu active, Naruto jumped up onto the wall of the base, silently disabling a guard with a poke to a few pressure points in the back and neck. Leaning the guard against the wall in a position that looked like he was just resting, Naruto looked into the base. There he saw something which truly horrified him. Down in the middle of the camp was his team. Taltos Vladimir, Shinomura Asuka, Akimichi Churo, you are all genins of the leaf, and for that you will be executed by means of crushing. Any last words? Said the man in front of them. They were all bound in chains which seemed to suppress chakra, and were on their knees in front of the middle-aged jounin in front of them. They all said nothing, silently hoping Naruto was nearby, refusing to accept death until the very end. They may be ninja, but they were still children, and their leader was quite possibly the strongest leaf ninja since the Yondaime. Nothing? Very well then. The jounin began making hand seals, and upon finishing called out his jutsu. Doton, rock burial no jutsu. The ground came up and swallowed them all down, making blood spurt from the ground. However, there were no bodies when the ground revealed where they once had been. 1 mile outside the camp, Naruto was panting. Next to him were his 3 genins, wondering what in the hell had just happened. What was that, Naruto-sensei? Churo asked, having never seen such a technique before. Blood clones, made from a guard's blood, hinged into you, using substitution to switch with you from long range, plus an instant Hiration before the guards could notice, in combination with an invisibility jutsu so they wouldn't see the flash from Hiration. All 3 of his genins' mouths dropped, processing the complexity of what just happened while Naruto caught his breath. Soon they set off for Konoha, making their week trip into a 2-day trip, or so they thought. Konoha, the 2 guards at the gate were twiddling their thumbs, wondering why today had to be such a boring day. No one coming in or going out, it was disappointing. Well, until 3 genin came running up to the gate screaming. "Get the Hokage!" The boy with the weird dragon thing yelled. "Get Anbu!" shrieked the girl. "Get me food!" The other boy growled. All of them looked at him, wondering just why he was thinking about food while his teammates were going ballistic. Churo looked around at the faces and just said sheepishly, "What?" The 2 guards sighed, and looked to the other genin who had calmed themselves down. Naruto-sensei, he met with a bunch of guys in black, with red cloaks. There were 4 of them. He killed 2. Disintegrated them before he got stabbed in the back by a giant tail. It looked like it had poison. "We deactivated our seals and ran here. They're only about 22 miles away, he'll need help," said Vlad, struggling to keep from yelling at them for not getting the Hokage right away. However, hearing this, one of them bit his thumb and swiped the blood over the emergency summon. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade felt a tugging in the back of her head, and felt the summoner. It was one of the guards at the north gate. Appearing at the gate, of her own free will, she asked what was going on. When Vlad got to the part about men in black cloaks with red clouds, she didn't listen to another word. Calling for 2 nearby ANBU squads, she and the 8 ANBU set off to find the blonde-haired wonder. "With Naruto, you bastard. Killing Hidan and Kakuzu like that?" "Well, not like I really liked them, but Kakuzu brought in money, damn it, and I need that for my hair products," said Deidara angrily. Sasori was growing tired of his teammates whining, and shot him a cold glare. They were on opposite side of Naruto, who was not wielding ki, instead keeping it on his back to help block Sasori's scorpion tail. Naruto dodged the tail and explosion over and over again, glad that he had managed to survive so far on his own chakra, and that he had killed 2 major opponents so quickly. Or, well, he thought he did. Suddenly a blast of air came from his right, blowing him over and allowing Sasori to stab him through the gut. Using a substitution, Naruto replaced himself with a log and cast his invisibility genjutsu over himself. Words of Falivora echoed in his mind. When you find yourself in a life and death situation, you will be able to advance your eye. All you must do is not rely on it until you need it. Deactivating his Fuingen, which had been active, he let the white fire drain out of it. Drawing ki, he looked down at his opponents, still looking for his hidden chakra signature. 3 of them, apparently that Kakuzu guy can take a hit pretty well. Or Naruto missed. Suddenly, Naruto felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Turning around, he saw that other guy, Hidan, standing in a circle with a triangle in it and stabbing himself in the stomach. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was going on. "I see this may be more of a challenge than I thought," Naruto said, deactivating the genjutsu. "You really thought you could take on 4 Akatsuki members alone? Even with those eyes it's impossible." Deidara said menacingly. "Yes, with how these eyes are now, but what if I advanced them?" Naruto responded. Hidan raised a dagger to his head, and rammed it in. At the same moment, Naruto's eyes jumped to 20 seals each. With the new eyes, came new power. Fuin, 40 Eye Seal Shield. Performing the technique he'd seen Falavora do so many times, he felt the kunai about to enter his skull, but nothing happened. There was no pain, no injury. Haiden was frozen in place. Around him was a blue shield of someone else's chakra. He looked to Naruto, who said to him tauntingly, "Hurting yourself is a nasty habit." Haiden immediately broke his technique, instead throwing his scythe at Naruto in an attempt to get more blood to try a different technique. However, the scythe was dodged and thrown back, as Sasori shed his armor and Kakuzu sent a water blast at Naruto which was dodged. "Let's try this out," Naruto shouted. He deactivated his Sealies again, hoping to bring them up more, and to his great fortune, or misfortune, 2 more people with cloaks showed up. One had a Sharingan, the other had a gigantic sword. "So, he's giving you that much trouble," the one with the bandaged sword said, mocking the others. "Shut up, it's like fighting the Yondaime times 2. Said Deidara. Meanwhile, Sasori yelled at them. "You're in the way." And summoned his 300 puppets. However, in barely 8 seconds all of them were destroyed, and Sasori had a Rasengan burying its way into his organs. Naruto, tired of being stabbed and using Kyuubi's chakra to heal it and remove the poison, decided to take advantage of the distraction and light all 40 kanji seals. Shouting his technique, 300 Sealai Inferno, Naruto blew up every single one of Sasori's puppets, then used Hiruzen to get close and drive a Rasengan into Sasori's heart and other organs. Then, turning to his partner, he once again used the Hiruzen to warp in front of him. Manually placing 2 disintegration seals on Deidara, he destroyed both of the man's arms, before getting sideswiped by a giant sword. Crashing into a tree, Naruto looked up to see the 5 remaining members, all but 2 moving to the trees, leaving the Sharingan user and his teammate with the sword to deal with Naruto. "Ah, so you 2 are the strongest, eh?" Naruto said weakly, regenerating from the damage to his body from the sword hit that would have killed just about anyone else in 1 hit. "Yes. And you will die here. Tsukuyomi." Instantly, Naruto was flung into the world of Itachi's control, and just as quickly escaped due to the Kyuubi chakra dispelling it with a burst. "True, your Manjikyu cannot be broken by normal chakra, but what about demon chakra?" Naruto growled, his voice turning demonic as he released 2 tails. The mass of power began driving back the Akatsuki members. However, Itachi was unfazed and continued staring into Naruto's eyes. His biggest mistake. Fuin, 40-point bloodline seal. Naruto shouted, and instantly Itachi's Sharingan was gone, impossible to get back until he has done the equivalent of awakening it 40 more times. To get the Manjikyu would be nearly impossible. Itachi reeled back from the loss of power. The clarity of the world basically gone due to his near-constant use of the Sharingan. He would need a telescope to see clearly with his eyes as they were. The near-blind Uchiha then fell down from the waves of demonic chakra, or tried to fall back. A sword was soon lodged within him, stealing his soul. The Uchiha let out a blood-curdling scream then fell limp, ki now glowing bright green. He killed Itachi. Haiden muttered from the trees. He'd never before seen someone with so much power. "We need to bring him to 9 tails now. Haiden, help me with the barrier." Kakuzu shouted to the others. Arriving across the clearing from each other, Kakuzu and Haiden performed a joint barrier technique. 5-element shield no jutsu, a blue dome surrounded both Haiden and Kakuzu, and then the clearing. This actually made Tsunade and her band of ANBU arrive just moments later, having seen the dome. She looked within, and saw something which truly amazed her. 2 dead Akatsuki members, and 4 more, 2 of which holding a barrier which Tsunade determined as a bad idea to touch. She thought to herself, "Please be okay," then realized she was a burden here. She jumped up and into the canopy, so as to not be noticed by Naruto. However, he'd already seen her. Looks like I'm gonna have to finish this up. Can't have Bachan waiting for me, Naruto muttered to himself, while still locked in a kenjutsu fight with Kisame. Deidara was reforming his arms from clay, slowly, with his mouth working it. He was done with one already, and glad he'd made this technique last year. Yeah, right. You got lucky with Itachi and Sasori, but we are not so easy to defeat. Kisame said, pulling back his sword and engaging Naruto in another bout of swift strikes. Naruto, growing more fatigued from the fight, released another 2 tails of chakra. Overpowering Kisame, Naruto drew back ki and went into a more complex stance. Charging forward once again, Naruto flashed in front of Kisame with pure speed, but, surprisingly, he was caught in the side by the sword. Kisame brought his hands together in a ram hand seal, and shouted, "First gate, Kaimon, Kai." Immediately, Kisame's chakra surged to about half of Naruto's. Bringing his hands together again, he shouted, "Second gate, Kyumon, Kai." 3 out of 4 THS of Naruto's. Simon, Kai, Shomon, Kai, Kamen, Kai. Kisame was now equal to Naruto in power, with 5 gates open. Naruto released another tail, and they were no longer clashing, simply their chakra. Kisame released the 6th gate. Kaimon, Kai. Naruto released another tail, up to 6. His power exceeded Kisame's by a great deal now, each tail containing more power than the last. Kisame, however, had an objective. Kaiman, Kai, and the 7th gate opened. Shimon, Ki. The ground was shaking with power. With all 8 gates open, Kisame could have taken down any Kage, even the Yondaime, in seconds. Naruto, to prove his power, brought himself forcefully up to 7 tails, then 8, then finally, 9 tails emerged. From the ground, the rumbling continued. Both Kisame and Naruto let out earth-shattering roars, their chakra obliterating the shield around them, and vaporizing all who had not left the area. When Kisame began opening gates though, Tsunade and her Anbu had left. Naruto was now up to 40 kanji seals in each eye. Pain emerged from the ground, releasing his extra bodies, as did Konan, Zetsu, and Tobi. They all began making hand seals in unison while the Kyuubi's chakra battled down the weakening Kisame's. Naruto saw those around him, and knew he recognized that ritual. It was meant to extract demons, as he'd been told by Falivora after she learned he was once a Jinchuriki, now merged. If they got the Kyuubi's chakra, without form, it would recreate it. Under their will if contained. Naruto would not let that happen. He could only imagine a Kyuubi attack on Konoha. He would be responsible. Hinata. Tenten. Temari. Ino. Obeiken. Erosenin. His friends, and Irika, his father. Everyone he loved and the village he loved would die. I won't let this happen, this will not happen. Before they could finish their technique, Naruto did a technique he'd been doing for a long time. Expelling Kyuubi's chakra. However, it wasn't a simple exercise that Naruto was trying to do. No, Naruto was forcibly splitting his chakra from Kyuubi's and blasting it around him in a wave. The 50 seals in each of his eyes formed, and Naruto prepared himself for the pain. Kenjutsu, demon expulsion wave, in an instant, all of Kyuubi's chakra was blown out of Naruto in a ring. In the last second though, Naruto saw Tobi leave. He had somehow not been locked down by the force of the chakra. However, it was too late to think of that. Forcing all of Kyuubi's chakra to split from his own, Naruto forced all the demonic chakra from every Tenketsu point, expelling it forcefully into the world. This event later became known as Apocalypse because everything with a 5-mile radius of Naruto was utterly annihilated. The ground was turned black, the sky flashed red for a brief moment, and Naruto could only make out the outlines of the remaining Akatsuki as their skin, muscles, veins, and soon their very bones were disintegrated by the chakra. Only one had escaped, and with that thought, Naruto slipped into dreamless sleep. Beep. 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 Is he gonna be okay? A concerned Hinata was leaning over the bed, grasping the hand of her beloved. A lone tear made its way down her cheek, soon to be followed by others. They had just gotten him back to the hospital an hour before, having found him a day after the explosion. Bodies are hard to find when covered in dust in a 10-mile diameter crater. He's recovering. I'm actually surprised. The force he used, he must have either had something enormous to expel, or he just has really strong coils. With the size of that craters, he must have used a chakra store the size of a few Kages. The nurse looked awed for a moment. Then turned her look away and left the room to get a doctor. Expel something? Wait. Did he? No, he couldn't have gotten rid of it. It would kill him. Hinata thought, desperately trying to find another reason for the source of the power. However, that was when a realization struck. He still had cuts when he was found. They weren't healed. He got rid of Kyuubi's chakra. Ugh. What happened? A voice said from below her. The hand she was holding suddenly retracted, as the blonde-haired man in the bed rubbed his eyes, and sat up. Naruto-kun. Hinata yelled, jumping on him. Though surprised and confused, he was brought to reality by the voice. Hinata-kun. Naruto said as he pulled her in. She was soon lying on top of him, the both of them holding each other, grasping each other's backs and snuggling together for warmth. This is the scene the doctor walked in on. Well, such a recovery. If I didn't know better, I'd call her the patient. Hug her any tighter, you'll kill her, the doctor joked, snickering as he came through the door. Uzumaki-san, we gave you the usual. You may want to check your coils, see what happened to them since you aren't healing as well, but overall you should be fine. Already signed your release forms. This was standard procedure in the hospital. Naruto would come in. After someone insisting he'd damaged himself, and they would wave him out, since to him the injuries wouldn't last long. Smiling appreciatively, Naruto prepared to get out of bed, but noticed something odd. He still had cuts on him. Sending some chakra to the area, it hurt him, and he fell back into the bed after having sat up. Can I stay for a little longer? Naruto said, wondering inwardly why he felt so weak. Then the memories of the previous day came back. The Akatsuki, killing. Expelling the chakra, the coils burnt, reforming, everything. The destruction. Staring out the window he would see, off in the distance, a clearing made apparently of sand, the explosion nearly reaching the village's western gate. Confused, the doctor complied and went off to fill out the forms, wondering what could possibly be wrong. Hinata-kun. I'm normal again. I feel the energy, I have the chakra store still, but I'm not recharging. I'm not able to heal myself. The Kyuubi chakra. It's gone. I know. We all felt it. It was as if the apocalypse came again. I'm just glad you didn't use your ultimate Rasengan with that chakra. You could have leveled every ninja village in seconds. It was that much? Yes. The situation was indeed grim. Naruto was only a shell of his former power, no longer would he be able to carry out his plan. To stop the war. Hinata. I need to be alone now. What did I do? I won't be able to save them now. This war, I will not let innocents die, but now I can't stop it, can I? I no longer have the power. All I have is myself. Activating his eyes, Naruto held up a mirror and saw the 50 kanji seals in his eyes. He remembered his vow to Hinata to remove the caged bird seal, and now that he could, he would make sure to do it as soon as possible. But, would she still love him? I just unleashed power beyond power. And now that it's gone, all I have is memories expelling the power, Naruto saw his life flash before his eyes again, and saw the Kyuubis. The Kyuubi was no bad creature, it was there for balance. It had been summoned by the man he'd let escape. The man in the black cloak with clouds, and with the red eye. The Kyuubi had been used, originally to start war, and now, the Kyuubi was dead, trapped and powerless in the underworld, its power slowly returning. He would be Hokage. If he couldn't even protect the strong, how could he protect the weak? If he couldn't get rid of Konoha's threats, how could he be a Hokage? Thoughts swirled, until he finally came to the conclusion. He would take the title, and earn it by protecting the people he loved, even those slightly misunderstood. Next day, Tsunadesima Naruto said with surprising respect. I request a unit of ANBU, one special jounin, Mitarashi Anko, and the aid of the head of interrogation to help me in an attack on Rock to neutralize it in the coming war. You know, you got hit pretty hard. You may be fine physically now, but maybe you got hit in the head or something. Let me check. She started to get up, before Naruto moved up in front of her desk, and covered her hands with his, locking them to the desk. Bachan, I'm not insane. I need to protect Konoha. It's my duty as the Rokudaime. Naruto said with fierce determination. The kanji in his eyes didn't light up, but there was fire behind them. Look, Naruto. I read your report from earlier today. I know an enemy escaped, I know you want to protect the people, but a suicide mission will not solve anything. It's not a suicide mission. I promise you, we'll all come back alive. It will only take 2 weeks. You don't have that much time. Tsunade said, dropping her worry for him and gaining worry for the village. I was about to send out an order to mobilize our troops. Rock and Cloud appear to be heading at Suna, Dust and Waterfall are set to attack us, Dust from the north, Waterfall from the south. We'll be split, we can't afford to let you go. I can cripple Dust just as easily as I could Rock. Please Tsunade. You can keep the ANBU if you need to, just give me Anko and someone in the interrogation department. Naruto, it's too dangerous to let you go. I'm sorry, but you don't have the Kyuubi for backup anymore. It's just you. No, I'm sorry. If I can save Konoha from destruction, then I'll do it, with or without your authorization. Naruto said, then turned to leave. Tsunade was about to call for ANBU, then stopped, remembering the Yondaime's performance in battle. Just like his father, she muttered to herself. Letting him leave. Jounin lounge, I'm not drunk, I'm fin. Said a rather distraught unbalanced, purple-haired woman on a bar stool in the lounge. Now gimme another. Mitarashi-san, no. Any more you'll die from alcohol poisoning. Kakashi-san, think you can get her home, said an annoyed bartender, holding Anko's arms away from the beer tap. No need, I got her. A voice said from near the door. Naruto stepped out from the shadows, wearing a black long-sleeved shirt, black ANBU pants, a black jounin vest, and a black cloak with a hood which came to a point just above his eyes, covering his blonde hair. Performing 2 quick hand seals, Naruto's fingers began glowing green. Touching his fingers to Anko's stomach, he moved them in a quick pattern, then stopped. She immediately threw up, fortunately on the floor, and not Naruto. She wiped her mouth, then sat up looking angry. What did you do to me? Ejected the alcohol from your system. Now come, I need you for a mission. She followed without questioning him, mostly because he was talking in a very serious manner, even leaking a little killing intent, and partially because she was curious. Leaving the bar, they began making their way to his estate. Noting the direction, Anko followed, though a bit more cautiously. Noticing the change, Naruto decided to interrupt her track of thought. We're getting Ino for the mission. Arriving at the estate, Naruto threw a Hiraishin kunai with all his might, with the help of chakra, in the direction of the border. Naruto had Anko hide in the trees, and jumped up to the balcony off of Ino's room. Sliding through the door, he made his way to the bed where she was still resting. Shaking her awake, he saw a bit of the blanket fall off of her, showing that she slept naked. Kinky. Wait, no time for that. Ino, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open, and she sat up quickly. Then, noticing the lack of clothing, she hastily covered herself, blushing brightly. What is it, Naruto-kun? A mission. Pack only what you need, and get fully equipped. We leave in 5 minutes. Leave where, Naruto? A voice said from the doorway. There stood Temari, with Tenten and Hinata in the hallway, peeking inside. A mission. What kind of mission? Temari asked sternly, wondering what he was doing going on one so quickly. It has no rank, and there is no time. Naruto said, reluctant to tell them where he was going. Where is it going to be? What are you doing there? Until you answer those, you aren't leaving. Taking the cue, Hinata and Tenten moved around Temari, and surrounded him. By this point in time, Ino was ready to go. I love you all. Grabbing Ino, he shunshined from the room to where Anko was, then grabbed both and used Hiruzen to get to the border, using the kunai pull of the kunai he'd used earlier. They arrived in front of the Valley of the End, the kunai appearing to have blown through 7 trees before lodging itself in a rock at the top of the valley. Here's what we're doing, since I'm sure you're wondering. Today we are going into the Dust Village to neutralize it in the coming war. We get no backup, this is it. All we need to do is find the bases, and their Kage tower in the village, and we can get rid of a lot of their troops. Anko, what I need you to do is go out into the woods and find a base, then put some chakra into this. Holding up a Hiruzen kunai, Naruto gave it to Anko, who pocketed it. When I get a signal from you, I'm going to come to you, and use 100 Seal Inferno. With my eyes, it should take only an instant to use it. Afterwards, if all goes according to the plan, a large chunk of their forces will die, others will be wounded. We will capture one wounded, and bring him or her back with us to Ino, who will be here. If it's an officer, she'll probably be able to find the location of another base in the person's mind. Got all that? Yes. Both responded, before Anko cast an invisibility jutsu on herself and launched off into dust territory. Good luck, Anko. Standing next to each other uncomfortably, Ino decided to try to cheer him up some. I know this is a mission, and I know why you're doing it, I'm just wondering, why? Because it needs to be done. Naruto said in a monotone voice. You say that, but I saw your mind when you got back. Standard procedure, sorry. Ino said with an apologetic smile. I saw what you feel for each of us, and why you fight. You don't have to be scared. She hit the nail perfectly, driving it into him. I know. There is no beast anymore, but I'm scared for others. I can't help it. Naruto-kun, that's natural. You can still protect, even without Kyuubi's help. Ino said reassuringly. Ki let out a green pulse, and Ino chuckled. Looks like Ki agrees with me. There's something else I found though. Why haven't you removed Hinata's caged bird seal? I can't. Naruto said, looking down. That's bullshit. Ino whispered to him. He was certainly surprised, no one had ever said that to him before. Well, no one close to him. What do you mean that's bullshit? What do you know about sealing? I don't know, but I know that you could if you wanted to, so why haven't you? He sighed, then waited a second before answering. Suddenly, he felt a tug in the back of his mind. Without a word he vanished in a yellow flash. Base number 1, Anko slipped onto the roof of one of the barracks. The base was really more of a small outpost, holding mostly genin and chunin, a few scattered jounin, and the base leader who was definitely high junin level. He'd almost seen through her invisibility genjutsu, but she'd moved out of the way just in time. Pulling out the small tri-pointed kunai, she put chakra into it until she felt it absorb it. Suddenly, in a yellow flash of light, Naruto appeared, all 100 kanji, 50 in each eye, burning white, contrasting against the dark blue background of his eyes. Fuin, 100 seal inferno. Suddenly, the base below them was covered in seals, and Naruto let them all go off in just a second, pulling Anko off into the trees behind the base. A giant explosion was seen, fire shooting up in a spiral-patterned elar from the center of the base. Dying down quickly, Naruto and Anko moved into the base, finding mostly charred corpses, and a few wounded jounin whom they killed because they found their main target, the base leader with an arm missing, blown off by one of the explosions. Well, how is the leader of this fine outpost? Naruto said sarcastically, while Anko prepped herself for battle. You won't get away with this. Dust will send reinforcements, we will kill you. The man said, the killing intent and bloodlust rolling off of him. Oh really? Well, wanna know why I'm not shaking? Naruto asked, tauntingly. Reaching into his cloak and long-sleeved shirt, he pulled out a necklace. It was silver and gold, taking the shape of the Konoha leaf. Within it was, in obsidian, the kanji 4 seal. It was something he hadn't worn since he'd gotten back, nor shown to any of his friends or fiancés, or even the Hokage, because they knew what it meant, as did the man in front of him. Symbol god of Konoha. For the great injustice you have caused, today you will die. His killing intent rose to its peak, as he used his only remaining hand to do one-handed seals. His entire body began emitting chakra at a steady but slow rate, the chakra converting into fire. Katan, flame body no jutsu. Grabbing a kunai, the fire began emitting form it as well, and he charged. However, in his rage he forgot one thing, Naruto wasn't alone. Before he made it even 2 steps, a figure behind him stabbed 2 kunai into his arm, one from above near the shoulder, the other in the armpit, then pulled. The result, his second arm came off. He lost control of the technique, but lit himself on fire by accident. Walking up to the man, Naruto projected a water conversion seal onto his hand from within his body, without the use of his eyes, the kanji of which were now back to black. Pumping some chakra to his hand, he doused the man with water, before grabbing him and stopping the bleeding with a morph seal. Grabbing the man and Anko, they warped back to Ino, having been gone a total of 2 minutes. Ino used an advanced Shintenshin to look around his mind, then found the map of locations. Giving Anko directions, they prepared to repeat the process, making sure to only hit the largest bases from then on. As Anko set off, Ino turned to Naruto to continue the conversation from before. Well? Why haven't you? Look, Ino, I like you, you're a great person and I love you, but I'm not going to tell you. Naruto said, but thinking in the back of his mind that he forgot something. You realize I already know why and your reasoning, right? I mean, come on, Mindwalker here. Right, that's what he forgot. Okay. I'll say it. It's because I don't feel it's right. I want her to be mine, but that's her attachment to her family, even if they don't want her. I'm to protect the village. If I remove the seal, even as a future Hokage, it will cause problems. I can't remove it until I can get clearance to do it for the whole clan, or I can force it to be done as the Hokage. I'm not yet, I can't change the clans until then. I can't protect her from that. No, you can but you won't. I understand where you are coming from, but keep in mind, you told her you'd do it when you got back. She hasn't wanted to rush you, but maybe you should tell Hinata what you just told me. Why you are going back on your word. Ino, I won't go back on my word, I said I would do it, and I will. But when I can. I promise. Oh, and Naruto. About the wedding. He could tell she was uneasy, being in a relationship with someone who's getting married and all. To 3 people as of yet. Is it clear with Hinata? Naruto asked. Yes. Then. Ino, will you marry me? Before she could respond, Naruto felt a tug in the back of his mind, disappearing in a yellow flash of light. Base number 2, Anko was having a much easier time with this base. It was better organized, most high-level officers staying in specific building, and only the normal genin and chunin, and a few rare jounin moving around. There was even a training field in the middle of the base, where many ninjas were practicing. The base, overall, was huge. Moving into position on top of the tallest building. In the area, the command center, which was about 2 stories tall, one of the few building that wasn't just a large or small tent, Anko pumped in the chakra. Naruto appeared, and Anko covered his eyes before he could use the technique. Today, Anko whispered playfully. We learn how to aim. Uncovering his eyes, she proceeded to point out the major targets, including the one they were on. Lighting up the 100 kanji seals of his 2 eyes, Naruto felt the slight drain. With this he would be at 65% of his total capacity. Fuin, 1000 seal inferno, placing 5 spirals of seals, 200 explosive seals in each spiral centered around one of the 4 main command points, the 5th centered on the training ground. Naruto completed the technique in just 2.5 seconds, then let off the explosion. He and Anko stayed on the only safe structure in the entire base, watching the fire of the explosion rise around them, as if they were in the center of a hollowed-out fireball. The explosions left no survivors, as made apparent by the fact that the rest of the camp was decimated. Most of the camp was simply disintegrated. Disintegration, now there's a good idea. Drawing a massive seal onto the roof of the building in just a few seconds, Naruto pumped chakra into it, then grabbed Anko and used the Hiruzen with Ino to get back. Seconds later, the inhabitants of the building felt a little odd, before they suddenly phased out, as did the rest of the building. If someone were to look at the base, they would see no sign of a struggle, they'd just see a big ring of burnt ground surrounding a white area. With Ino, will you marry me? The words echoed in her mind again, as she pondered the question. She just wanted to be invited. She was planning to marry him sometime, but for God's sake, they'd basically just met. Then again, the wedding would be a good ways away. She'd overheard Hinata saying it would wait until the end of the war, no use trying to make a family during a war. Suddenly Naruto appeared again. Ino quickly gave Anko directions to the last large base they would attack before moving on to the actual village hidden in the dust. Anko nodded, then set out again, growing bored of running over her previous path before turning somewhere else, wishing she could use Hiruzen and just get there. But, Hiruzen wasn't exactly a sneaky jutsu, nor was Naruto that good at being sneaky. Naruto turned to Ino, to see she was slowly digging the tip of her foot into the ground, biting her lip and keeping her eyes down. Yes. I will. She near whispered. She slowly walked up to him, then embraced him. She brought his head down to hers, and lovingly looked into his eyes, before planting a kiss on his lips. Surprised, he remembered what he'd asked her, then chuckled into the kiss, before allowing her to deepen it. Clutching his hair in her hands, Ino pushed back the hood, and pushed his head closer, mashing his lips to hers. Then, pulling away. She spoke softly, but I'll need to get to know you better first. Still, wife of a Hokage sounds good. Naruto chuckled again, then began to turn back to his stony demeanor so that he could remain focused, but that wasn't about to happen. And you have to take me on a few dates, and prove yourself true to me as well, and be a gentleman, and tell me how long you are. I will marry you, if you know me, and let me know you. Till then, it's on hold. Agreed. When we get back we go on a date, okay? Naruto said, happy to have another in his life. So much love to spread. Well, how long are you? Ino said, tapping her foot expectantly. Wait, you were serious? I'm not telling you. Wait till you get back to the estate, I'm sure Hinata would be more than glad to inform you. Naruto said, rolling his eyes and sighing at the last part of his sentence. Well then I'll have to find out, won't I? Ino quickly moved up to him, kissing him again, and locking his right hand behind his head with the help of the rock she pressed him to. Lockjing his other arm with on of hers, Ino took her freed and reached down his pants, grasping his member. I'd say, soft 6.5, hard 8 to 9. Large. Naruto flushed bright red at being measured, and attempted to push her back, but she just distracted him with another long kiss, then pulled down his pants. However, before she could embarrass him further, Naruto felt a tug in the back of his head. Oh god no! Naruto disappeared in a flash of yellow light, while Ino did a victory dance, knowing how proud Anko would be of her later for what she just caused. Base number 3, Anko snuck around the last large base. This one had only one large command center, and was only about 20 miles outside Hidden Dust. It had only Dust's troops this time, recognized by their forehead protectors with the Dust symbol, a rock with clouds around it, to show its allegiance to its 2 founding villages. Anko, finding a large tree outside the village, stood on it remaining invisible. It was fairly close to the village, close enough for it to be in range that is. There were multiple training fields, an armory, and tents for the residents, but aside from the command center, that was about it. Putting chakra into the tri-pointed kunai, she called for her demolition man. Naruto arrived in a flash of light, falling down onto Anko because of a loss of balance. He rolled off her quickly, but she wasn't looking at him. She was looking down. Because his pants were down. Naruto blushed bright red, and pulled them up. Before she could comment, Naruto interrupted her. Okay, we are in a tree. What am I aiming for this time? He said, sarcasm apparent on the word aiming. First off, nice dick. He flinched. Second, aim for the main command center near the back, the rest of it you can just wipe out. We'll need to leave very fast, some patrols have been coming and going. Affirmative. Naruto said, not wishing to risk any innuendo by saying gotcha. Lighting all 100 kanji seals, noting that he'd gotten better at doing it quickly, taking only 2 seconds now, Naruto found that the whole base was just within range. Fuin 500 Seal Inferno. The seal spread throughout the camp, and blew up, leaving only ruins. He was now at 40% of his full capacity, due to the range needed. Anko, drop the kunai. She did so, and they flashed back to Ino, who was smirking at them. Anko gave her a wink which Naruto didn't see, as his eyes were looking anywhere but at Anko. Suddenly, he grew serious. This is it. I'm sorry, but this is where the mission ends for you too. I'm doing this alone. I promise I'll come back, tell Hinata, Tenten, Temari. Tell them I love them, and keep them safe. I'm sure whatever comes from this won't end perfectly. They eyed him quizzically, but he looked away, lighting up his eyes. He used Ino's hastily drawn map to get to Dust in seconds, just out of view of the guards. Eating a few ultra-high calorie bars, Naruto ate until he was full, then took out a gift from Churo. The 3 Akimichi pills. I only hope I won't have to use them. Pulling out key, Naruto raced to the gate, where 10 ANBU prepared to stop him. With ease, Naruto high-shined around them, soon making 10 heads fall to the ground, feeding a now green-glowing key 10 more souls. Removing his cloak, Naruto pulled out the necklace, allowing it to bob freely on his chest. Let it begin. Naruto muttered to himself as 2 more squads of ANBU arrived. 15 minutes later, Naruto was inside the gate, having fought off over 30 ANBU to get there. He'd also ambushed 2 teams of genin running around without their sensei and knocked them unconscious. Children do not escape his wrath. If they can hurt his precious people, then they are enemies. He made his way through the bloody gate and into the street, killing the 2 hiding Chunin guards. Putting Ki away, Naruto prepped himself for battle hand-to-hand. Suddenly, some kunai caught his attention. Blasting them away with wind created by a conversion seal, Naruto was suddenly glad for Falavora's teachings. Flashback no Jutsu, Naruto. There is another level beyond simply getting more eye seals. Falavora said, watching Naruto try to acquire more. Huh? He asked, inarticulately. There is another way. It's called body projection. It means to create seals on your body without the use of your eyes. Why would I want to do that? If I can't see it, what use is using a seal on it? Come at me and find out. The Queen Sloth said eloquently. By now, Naruto knew it was a bad idea to get into a seal fight with the old sloth. If he did he would lose. So, speeding towards her he prepared a kunai, his eyes alight to counter any seals. Or so he thought. The sloth held up one foot and on the bottom of it appeared a water conversion seal, which immediately began shooting mass amounts of water at him, too much to dodge. See what I mean? She said in a booming voice, chuckling at his distaste at being wet. Yes, Falavora-sama. He replied uncomfortably. Good, young one. Flashback Kai. Naruto looked at the source of the shuriken, and saw 3 jounin. However, they didn't look all that threatening. All at once they sent a mass of sand at Naruto. However, they did basically nothing, as the boy was no longer there. Unsealing an ironing board with seals on it, Naruto flew up to the jounin, and as he passed by hit each of them with a disintegration seal, hitting one on the head, the other 2 in the arms they blocked with. With the chakra being pumped in, all 3 jounin died, as the 2 who had blocked with their arms were missing their upper torsos, and the last one lost his head and most of his torso. Naruto swirled around them, and decided that it would be best to simply get to the tower, but before he could he was blasted from behind by a fireball. Quickly putting out the fire with water conversion seals on his back, Naruto flew over to the Hokage tower, before deciding to simply end the village as it was. He's seen no civilians in the village, only ninja, only enemies. Downing the 3 Akimichi pills at once, Naruto felt as if he'd been stabbed in the stomach and through it with a rust spork, then lit on fire and struck by lightning in the gut, but also felt the chakra increase. Forming seals, Naruto made a chakra shield around himself, which jounin began to attack from afar, while Naruto made more seals. 457 seals later, Naruto shouted his technique, later called by its survivors, Hell Rain. Fuin, Disintegration Void. Letting the barrier drop, Naruto felt the loss of chakra, as well as a few pointy things go into him, and a hit from a Doton Jutsu, but those stopped dead in a moment. A gigantic seal was projected on the ground beneath all the buildings, only bit of it visible. Jumping high off the tower, included in the technique, Naruto let the attack resolve. All buildings were instantly gone, as were all ninja who couldn't focus a sufficient amount of chakra to their feet. The attack left about 3 dozen jounin, 7 squads of ANBU, a few hunter nin, and the Kage of the village. And a completely level area where not a single other survived. He'd definitely survived the attack. But would he be going back? Naruto looked up at the shocked, angry faces, and saw before him the one person he least wanted to see at that moment, Kimimaro, Kage of Hidden Dust. He'd met him once on the border, and had to be saved by Falavora whom Naruto summoned for protection. The man was just too strong. Well, the Bone Man said. I am glad I sent half my forces with Sasuke to help invade Konoha from the south. Why would you tell me that? Naruto asked weakly, searching for a Hiruzen kunai. Because I know you're out of chakra. Your organs have all but shut down, you can barely talk. There is no escape, O great symbol god. There is no Kyuubi. Now, you can rest proudly knowing that a pawn such as you took out a few chunks of the enemy. But is that worth it? You can protect no one, here you will die. The last Kagaya proclaimed, having changed much since becoming a leader. That's what you think? Naruto said, finally finding a Hiruzen kunai, the one near the last camp. Reaching down, he discreetly pulled out a soldier pill, but it didn't make it to his mouth. Kimimaro shot a bone into his hand, nailing it into the ground. Give me some credit. I almost killed you last time, I think I should rectify that mistake. He said, tauntingly. You bastard. Naruto stated, still too weak to use Hiruzen, even at such short range. I'm a bastard? No, you haven't seen what I can do. You know my power, and I know quite a lot about you, symbol god of Konoha. I know of your soon-to-be wives, and I'll make sure when we take care of Konoha they get special treatment. I almost want to imprison you, just so I can make you watch me repay you for what you've already done to this village. No. Naruto muttered, realizing he hadn't fulfilled his promise, he could protect them now. You're just a demon. Kimimaro shouted, sticking 3 large bones into Naruto, trapping his other hand and his legs. Shooting a few bone bullets into Naruto, the Kaguya took great pleasure in just barely missing vital points. Naruto felt himself getting weaker. He had to get away. I am no demon. Hinata. Tenten. Temari. Ino. Tsunade. I will protect you, I swear it. I will become Hokage, and I will save you. Save you all. Now. I am not a demon. Gathering up a small amount of chakra, all that he could manage, Naruto warped back to the last base he'd been at, 20 miles away. Reaching into his equipment pouch, albeit slowly, he pulled out a soldier pill that escaped Kimimaro's notice, and swallowed it. Using the energy, he warped to the Hiruzen seal he kept in his estate, and dropped down onto the bed. Using the last of the energy, he pumped chakra to his various wounds, closing the largest ones, then fell asleep. He was soon discovered. Next day, Hinata came to the door of the Namikaze estate, having heard someone knocking on the door. She'd found Naruto the previous night, and he didn't seem to be in too bad condition, so she used what medical knowledge she had and then let him rest. He woke up, but didn't want to be bothered. Apparently he had a lot on his mind, other than abandoning them the previous day. He apparently arrived back around 11 p.m., so it was understandable he'd wanted to sleep. Opening the door, Hinata found herself facing her father. Looking just a little older than when he'd disowned her. By order of Tsunade's will, we are here to discuss a certain matter with Naruto. Wait. Tsutsuna-desama? Why her will? She went to the south to help defend Konoha. She died in action against what the remainder of the force says to have been an Uchiha. The last Uchiha. His voice remained a monotone, but it was clear by the strain on his face that the loss of Tsunade affected him greatly. They got along well after a little while. Ah. I see. Hinata was doing what she could to keep from crying, but a few tears slid down her cheeks nonetheless. Composing herself, she let him in, showing him to the living room where Tenten and Temari sat. As he passed by her to his seat he whispered, classified information, so Hinata motioned for them to leave, asking them to tell Naruto to come downstairs, no excuses. I see you've made a home for yourself. Hinata. Hayashi stated, looking around the room. Yes, Otosan. Hinata said quietly. I am not your father. Don't call me that. You may very well be better off here, and you may have accomplished much, but you are no Hyuga. His cold voice echoed slightly in the room, though it didn't have quite the same effect it used to have. Gomen, Hayashishima. Hinata responded, still quite, but not fearful. But I am a member of the Hyuga. I have the mark of one. With that, she lifted the headband, but soon felt it covered by something warm. Naruto-kun. Indeed, Naruto had just placed his right hand over her forehead where the mark was. Focusing, he lit his eyes, then allowed chakra to flow through the various conversions necessary. Hayashishima, I heard you outside the house, and I heard what happened to Bachan. I understand that I'm the next Hokage, correct? Hayashi simply nodded before Naruto continued. I will come meet the council tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Until then. Hayashi caught the implication and prepared to leave. However, when he reached the door, Naruto called out to him. Ah, and Hayashisen, he twitched at the lack of a proper honorific, you're right, she's not a Hyuga. Looking back at Naruto, he noticed he'd removed his hand from Hinata's forehead, which now had no seal. Naruto saw his disbelief, though he was trying to hide it, and decided to say words he'd wanted to for a long time. As Hokage, my first order is to ban the caged bird seal and all affiliated seals used for controlling others. I ban your seals of fate. It was everything Naruto had ever wanted. Full respect from the villagers, all of them. He was no longer the Kyuubi, and on the first day announced to the village that he no longer contained it or any of its influence. Well, after his meeting with the council. There was a new council around nowadays. Flashback no Jutsu, Naruto, the head of the council, Hamura, began. We understand that you were named the new Hokage by Tsunade, and as of today we are asking you to step down, name the next one. We're sorry, but no demon container can ever fully unite the village. At the end of this statement, Hamura found himself pressed against the wall, his neck in Naruto's firm grasp. Excuse me, Hamura-san, the blonde-haired man spat. But I think I could easily unite them, considering I no longer contain the demon. I believe that a Jinchuriki can lead fine as well. How have relations been with Suna with that attitude of yours? It was true, negotiations with Suna had gotten worse lately, mostly because of the council's narrow-minded view, but they would never openly admit that. You forget your place here, we the council have authority. No, you forget your place. The council is an advisory to the Hokage, not the other way around. I am the most powerful ninja in this village, without the Kyuubi's aid, and I dare any one of you to challenge me on that. The council was quiet, no one wished to defy him, especially when he had the withered old Hamura in his grasp. That's what I thought. I no longer contain the Kyuubi or any trace of it, I have gotten to this power on my own, I hold a legendary sword, I have protected this village time and time again, I even know the 4th's two legendary jutsu, the Hiruzen and the Rasengan. I am the Rokudaime Hokage, and I have the right to replace members on the council when I come into office. Thus, the only people I want here are the clan heads and the primary members of the civilian council. Everyone else, including you, Hamura and your other teammate. Get out. With that, Naruto turned and walked out of the council room, and no longer would he find any significant resistance against him in the council. However, Naruto also waited outside the room for Hayashi. When the old Hyuga clan head walked out, Naruto grabbed his arm and Hiruzen them both to the Hyuga compound. Have you fulfilled my ruling as Hokage? No more caged bird seals or affiliated seals. It has been done. Hokage-sama. Hayashi said, still reluctant to giving Naruto such control of the clan. Good, now get them all out here, all of them including main branch members. I am going to place a different seal on them, it will make the bloodline impossible to get, but will cause nothing else. Hayashi was unfazed by hearing this and just whistled to the guards, who proceeded to bring every Hyuga out of the compound, where Naruto spent the next hour marking every one of them on their forehead with the new seal, a blue Egyptian eye with a black cross through it. It was barely the size of a thumbnail. When this was done, Naruto knew he would get no more resistance from the Hyugas. As Hayashi mouthed "thank you" to Naruto as he got marked as well. Flashback Kai, thus, there Naruto sat in the Hokage's office with 5 Kage Bunshins running around doing paperwork, while Naruto pondered what to do about the war. Relations with Suna had gotten slightly better, and the public was accepting Naruto more, so rallying their combined forces wouldn't be that difficult. Unfortunately, they weren't exactly in the best of positions. Most of the force sent with Tsunade came back either injured or dead, and that was about a third of Konoha's forces. The half of Dust's forces they had encountered came off easier, as Konoha's morale went down after Tsunade's death. Today, Naruto was given the report on Tsunade's death by the one jounin to survive seeing it, Hatake Kakashi. Flashback no Jutsu, Naruto-sama. I don't think a written report will suffice, will it? Kakashi said hopefully. No, it must be known how she died from a witness as well, so that we know how to best approach him in the future from your experience. Naruto said, though kindly, knowing it would be a hard tale to recount. Very well. Kakashi said, taking a deep breath before continuing. She died bravely, she died from a sword through the heart. The battle started off with a taijutsu battle, during which the Uchiha, he spat the name, sustained several hits from Tsunade. His speed can be described as ANBU level, his strength at mid-junin. Then the real fight began. Naruto was listening intently, not missing a word. He would fight this man, to avenge the previous Hokage, to save Konoha. Kakashi's face darkened. He used Tsukuyomi. I don't know what he made her see, but instants later she was screaming. He put the sword to her throat, but she knocked it away and punched him, activating a medical jutsu and using it on her head. Unfortunately, the technique that she uses with the crystal on her head became impossible to use following the eye technique. I thought Tsukuyomi destroyed a target's mind. She really was a strong-willed woman, wasn't she? Naruto asked, mostly to himself. Yes, the Cyclopean replied before continuing. They both used their summons. Apparently Sasuke got the Hawk contract, and began launching fireballs from above, dodging the acid from Katsuya, who was eventually forced to leave. Tsunade jumped up to stop him, and punched the bird down, forcing it to dispel as well. That was when he used it. He took out some sword, I don't know what it was, but it had a black blade and pulsed black like Ki pulses green. He used some technique to encase himself in a black orb, then attacked her in midair. The sword pierced her heart, she was dead. Sasuke looked like he was about to die as well, from exhaustion, but I couldn't attack him before more ninja arrived, we were forced back. The rest is in the report. Thank you. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said, turning back to his work. It's Kakashizen now, Hokage-sama, he said, then bowed before shining out. Naruto just shook his head and returned to work. Planning her funeral, even without the body. Flashback Kai, Naruto had finished planning the funeral, set for 1 day from then, already announced to the public. He was doing the work of, well, 6 Hokages thanks to his clones. He'd already seen her will, telling him to move on and rule as Hokage, even if she died, and he took it to heart. It was one of her last wishes, after all, and Naruto wasn't one to disrespect them. Turning back to his work, Naruto looked at the troop positions, and the plan drawn up by one Nara Shikaku, the head strategist for Tsunade. Shikamaru's father. His IQ could only be beaten by his sons, who also had great expertise in planning battles, and wars. Heck, if that family was half as good at winning wars as it was at winning shugi, they wouldn't even need an army. Looking over the plan, Naruto found he agreed with the troop positions, and knew where he would have to go to meet either Kimimaro or Sasuke. The war could not afford to last long, Konoha couldn't afford it, so they were lucky the enemy was so aggressive. Approving of the plan, Naruto sent out the troop orders in the care of a squad of ANBU, and assigned the teams that would be in reserve for the main southern force. Going down the list of names, he found one that surprised him. Namikaze Naruto's team, Talto's Vladimir, Shinomura Asuka, Akimichi Churo. Current sensei, Hatake Kakashi. Naruto saw his team had of course been given a new sensei, and that they had already apparently been sent into battle once. They'd all been promoted to Chunin for their performance in battle, and were officially promoted by the council already. The village could be quite efficient when it needed to be. Looking out the window, Naruto made another clone to do that paperwork he had been going to do, then viewed the village. Far away he could see teams practicing, and ninjas leaping from building to building all over town. In wartime, the ninja population was quite busy. Lowering the hat that came with the Hokage's robes that he was currently wearing, Naruto looked at his feet. He was finally Hokage, and in a time of war he felt powerful, yet powerless. He could not stop casualties. In fact, the life of the village rested on his shoulders. Without the Kyuubi, did he deserve to be there? Am I still powerful enough to hold this title? I know I am strong, maybe the strongest in the village, but will I survive, or die in war? Like the third, or the fifth? Naruto soon felt a hand on his right shoulder. Looking to his side, he saw Hinata there, smiling brightly. Don't worry. Soon it will all be over, and we'll get married, and have kids, and everything will be fine again. I promise. She said, rubbing his shoulders. Thank you, he whispered back, then deciding to leave his clones to do the work, he picked her up bridal style and walked with her through the park, waving back to various people as they smiled and waved to him. Getting about halfway down a brick walkway through a park, he stopped at a bench and sat down. Hinata in her lap blushing slightly. You realize, with as good ninja as you all are, I'll have to send you into combat, right? Yes. I know, but that comes with being a ninja, and we can't all just quit when a war comes along, especially in a position as important as ours. You couldn't force us to stay back if you wanted to. I know, and I wouldn't anyway. You live to protect Konoha, that's all our duties as ninja. Still. If one of you died, or worse, got captured, I don't think I could ever forgive myself. It won't happen. None of us are weak enough to be captured. Now stop worrying, think about it later. The next attack won't likely come for another week. Okay? Okay. I'll try to relax. Just promise me I won't lose you. I promise, Hokage-sama. Now. Has Hinata been a naughty girl? She asked with a mischievous grin. Yes, very naughty. Let's get you home and punished right and proper. Naruto said, chuckling slightly, before picking her up again and setting off for home. It would be a very loud night, with one girl screaming his name, and 3 other girls moaning his name, curled up in bed, wishing the war would just end so they could get married and get their shot at him. Next day, Naruto, Temari, Tenten, Hinata, and Ino were all paying their respects to the Godame Hokage. All had loved her very much, but none as much as Naruto. The funeral had officially ended over 2 hours ago, and though he promised on her will that he would move on, he couldn't stop staring at the empty casket. Her body had not been retrieved from the battlefield, having been burned by a few jutsu until it was too unrecognizable to find. The rain which followed ensured that most bodies would be left on the battlefield. Naruto was finally left alone by his fiancées, to stare at the empty casket, and there, for the first time in over a decade, he cried. Tears came slowly, but they came, sliding down his cheeks and dropping off into the puddles left by the rain which had started not long ago. The sky was dark, pouring rain fell, but Naruto didn't care, he just wept along with the sky. Bachan. Why? Why did you have to die? I'm not strong enough for this yet, to see loved ones die. To know that you died at the hands of a traitor who should have been long since killed. Come back. I need you. I need you, damn it. Damn it. Damn it. His force steadily grew until he was shouting over the roar of the rain beating the ground around him. The shout echoed in the darkness of the day, but it helped little. I'm not ready for this. I always wanted to be Hokage. But not like this. How can I change the clans, to create the Konoha I wanted, when soon it will all be gone? How can I unite the people while war splits them apart? How can I do this? You can do it by knowing you aren't alone in this. You have Konoha's support. A voice said from behind Naruto. Slowly turning around, he saw it was none other than Kakashi, squatting on the guard rail. Kakashizen. I can't do this. Naruto said, wiping the tears from his face, slowly stemming the flow. Yes. Yes you can. From what I saw from Sasuke you have long surpassed him. You are the son of the fourth, and at least his equal, if not stronger. Konoha is behind you in this war, as is Suna, the same way we support Gaara for his help. Kakashizen. Thank you, really, but I just need time to think. Give me that, it's all I ask. Just don't kill yourself over this, you'd disappoint those pretty wives of yours. With those wise words, he left, after paying his respects, while Naruto briefly thought he's even late to funerals. Sheesh. Naruto pulled out ki and decided to mediate, for the first time since he'd lost Kyuubi and its power, just to clear his mind. Mindscape, Naruto appeared before a giant empty cage, the one which used to contain the Kyuubi. He hadn't known he could still come here when the Kyuubi was gone, but that wasn't what surprised him. In front of him was someone he'd never seen there before. A woman. She had long red hair, wavy and stretching down to her lower back. She wore a blue cotton tunic over a white shirt, and black cotton pants, embroidered with diamonds. Around her neck she wore a necklace with a diamond attached. She was very beautiful. Who are you? Naruto asked, rather inelegantly. Wrong question. She responded in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere. What you mean to ask is, what are you, dot. She corrected. Fine. What are you? Naruto asked, rolling his eyes. She seemed to take offense to this, and smacked him across the face, sending him back into bars of the cage. Naruto got up and quickly moved away, before remembering there was no fox there. I am Ki, by your language, and I am a sword forged from Amorphia. This is the skill I offer you now. She said, while putting the necklace around his neck. I won't exist in here except when you use Ki in combat. I meant to give you this gift a long time ago, but your fox presented interference, I could get no connection. For now, I'll just tell you how to create it. Just hold Ki or have Ki touching you, and push chakra into it. Chakra will come out again, but this chakra will take the form of Amorphia. This is Aliera's gift to Yo, her having been my only true wielder before you. Use it well. She began to fade out, as Naruto shouted a question. What is Amorphia? She said it loudly, but growing softer as she eventually faded. Amorphia. Antimatter. You figure it out. Naruto was about to shout out another question, but she was already gone. Naruto was thrown out of his mind again, and looked at the sun. The sky had cleared and the sun was setting, he'd been there for around 3 hours. Deciding that was enough, Naruto made a few more clones and sent them to finish his work for the day, then went home. Arriving there, he didn't even make it to his bed, he just flopped down onto a couch and fell into a dreamless sleep. Next day, Naruto woke up to find a blanket over himself, a hot cup of coffee on the table next to him, and some eggs. Reaching over, he began his breakfast, but soon stopped when an angry Temari walked in. It's bad enough you had to ignore us last night because you were tired, but now you eat my breakfast? I swear, if you weren't so cute I'd be out of here. Gone. You hear me? She said, clearly exaggerating but angry nonetheless. Gomen, Temakan. I didn't know they were yours. Naruto said, yawning but continuing to eat the eggs and drink the coffee despite Temari's fading glare. No, it's okay. I'm just glad you're fine. Now, Naruto-kun, you better go get me more eggs. I made you breakfast. Apparently. So. You better make mine. She was pulling him off the couch, but didn't get him halfway off before he said something she'd never thought she'd hear. I'll offer a trade. If you make your own breakfast, I'll do Volume 1, Chapter 16. It's not technically sex, so we're in the clear. What'ya say? She dropped him, blushing a shade of red deep enough to make a tomato jealous, and walked up the stairs to her bedroom, not saying a word. Naruto called up to her, "Is that a yes?" but was met with a loud "pervert" being shouted down the stairs. A few minutes later he thought he heard something from her room, and thanks to the advanced senses he'd gotten from the Kyuubi which were, thankfully, still there, he was able to make out someone moaning the name Naruto-kun. Chuckling, Naruto finished his breakfast and decided to have a little fun. Going out to the hot springs, Naruto undressed and wrapped a towel around his waist. Sliding into the spring, he made a few clones and sent them up to Temari's room, which was, fortunately, on the side of the hallway near the hot springs, having a balcony. The clones hopped up the balcony and peered into the dimly lit room, where they saw exactly what Naruto thought. Temari was on her bed, her pants and panties off, rubbing her fingers against her pussy. The clone sprang into the room when she closed her eyes, and grabbed her, then chucked her into the springs. Of course, she knew it had to be a prank, since only Hinata, Tenten, Ino, Naruto, and a few choice others could get into the estate, but this didn't make her any less worried. With a loud splash the wind mistress landed rather uncomfortably in the spring. Her white t-shirt now adhered to her, completely see-through, while her lower regions were completely uncovered. Her pants and panties had been completely taken off during the throw. Getting up, she wiped the water from her eyes, and looked around. Getting out, she was caught halfway as a pair of arms encircled her, pulling her back in. "Well, Tamarican. You didn't say no." Chapter 16 in What I Want to Do with Naruto, Then. Naruto whispered into her ear seductively. She blushed, as his clones were dispelled. He pressed her to the side of the spring, where he removed her shirt and threw it off to the side to join the rest of the clothing. Moving his hands up slightly, he pushed each one against one of her breasts, rubbing them softly and eliciting soft moans from her. After a few minutes of this, Naruto snaked one of his hands down near her clit, but stopped there. He let the hand wander around the area briefly, before moving around her and resting on her butt. Squeezing tightly, she let out a short scream, before he stopped and backed away from her, leaving her panting slightly on the edge of the spring. Now, Temakan. No more on that until we're married, Hinata's rule. I'm going to the office, see you. With that, Naruto moved out of the spring, grabbed his clothes, and went inside. Or would have if not for a pair of arms encircling him. Temari moved up behind Naruto, catching him, then flipping him around and mashing his lips to hers. She reached into his towel and pushed it off, grabbing onto his manhood and giving it a few short strokes. She took the pre-cum on it and brought it up to her mouth, licking it off. She then took a still shocked Naruto into another kiss, brushed his manhood and leaned in, whispering in his ear, "No more until we're married, Hinata's rule." Temari then brushed past Naruto, shaking her hips seductively as she went. Naruto was still standing there, watching her bare ass go, until he remembered he had to be at the office. He rushed to dry off and get dressed, then used Hiruzen to get to the Hokage tower quickly. Work at the tower went like usual, handing out missions in the early day, then doing paperwork later in the afternoon, until 7 when he got Ichiraku ramen delivered. At 10, Naruto went home again, collapsing on his bed and falling asleep, cuddling up to Hinata as well. The next few days passed like this, until the attacks began again, and Naruto decided to execute his plan. It was time to end the war against Konoha. Going home early with the report of the enemy's whereabouts, Naruto prepared the speech he'd been repeating over and over in his head since he thought of it at the funeral. Entering his home, he went to the dining room to find the 4 of them having dinner. He studied all of them briefly. Tenten was wearing a red Chinese dress with a gold dragon embroidered on the right side. Her hair was in 2 buns. She was delicately eating a salad, and looked more beautiful than ever. To her right was Temari, who turned pink in embarrassment from their encounter a few days ago. She was wearing the same plain white t-shirt and a tight pair of jeans, her hair was down and wet, she'd probably showered recently. She was also not so delicately tearing into a baked potato. Across from her was Ino, who had become used to living there. She had her hair in a long ponytail, with one large, gravity-defying length of hair draped over the front of her face. She was wearing a purple t-shirt and tight, light blue faded jeans which showed off her rather attractive legs. Lastly, next to her, was Hinata. Her long, dark blue hair stretched to her lower back, perfectly straight and silky. She was also wearing a white t-shirt and a denim skirt which was short, reaching to only mid-thigh. She was eating like a bird, taking small bites slowly, yet at the same time seemed to be consuming the same amount of food as everyone else. Something which still puzzled Naruto. Clearing his throat, Naruto got all their attention, them knowing it must be important if he was back early and not yet joining them for dinner, since they always made enough for him. Tonight, I leave to end the war with Dust. I am going to fight their first in command, then move down to the second part of their troops and fight their second. With both gone, Asuna. Reinforcement and our troops can either wipe them out or force a surrender. I love all of you, from the bottom of my hearts. If I don't return, move on, don't dwell on me. Don't try to stop me. He was crying by the end of it, but hid the tears by turning away. Naruto quickly ran from the estate, perhaps for the last time, and left to gather his personalized guard. Akimichi Chuji, Nara Shikamaru, Hyuga Niji, Inazuka Kiba, they would escort Naruto to the first fight. Meeting them at the north gate, they got the okay from the guards. Kakashi was left in charge, his assistants being Nara Shikaku and Hayashi Hyuga. Fortunately, Kakashi had given them clearance, even if Naruto didn't really need it. They set off for their next location, the secondary arms force of Dust, headed by their Kage. Kagaya Kimimaro. Next day, they had been traveling for several hours, at about half speed to conserve energy, before finding the first signs of resistance. Running into a few patrols, they quickly took them out and incinerated their bodies to leave no trace. Moving past the patrols, Naruto brought them all to a halt about a mile outside the confirmed location of Kimimaro. Noting the amount of strength that would be required to take the camp, Naruto decided it wasn't worth it to waste too much chakra. Moving to the front of the pack of them, they moved again, this time slowly, until they were within range of the camp. Lighting up all 100 seal kanji, Naruto felt the drain on his chakra. 10 of his chakra and a fuin, 100 seal inferno later, the camp was blown up, and only the Kage remained, standing amongst the flames and burning corpses. Naruto brought his personal guard to a halt and told them to spread around the area. Jumping down into the burning, destroyed camp, Naruto faced his opponent, the man you had him on the ropes last time. Standing 6 feet 1 inch, only an inch shorter than Naruto, the Bone Master faced him. "Hello, Kimimaro. How good to see you again," Naruto said, casually. "Ah. Rokudame Hokage. Always a pleasure. I see you live up to your nickname. Bringer of Apocalypse. Ah, but I must. I wouldn't want to get rusty on that technique, now would I?" Naruto replied, seemingly unfazed. In reality, the killing intent leaking off the both of them was great enough to scare the living shit out of even the most hardened ninjas. Chuji was close to wetting his pants, while the other 3 felt cold shivers down their spines. "Now then, I assume you came to me for a reason." "Namikaze?" the Kagaya warrior inquired. "Why, yes. I am here, to end the war." This statement unwittingly sent the Kagaya into a short bout of chuckling, until he explained himself. "End the war? Well, then you'd best kill Sasuke, not me. I may be in charge of the village, but he is keeping our military going. Either way, you had to be dealt with eventually, and I think I know just how to do it." That's when the battle began. Naruto charged in so fast he could have broken the sound. barrier, but when he punched at the Kaguya, it was blocked rather nastily by a bone piercing a knuckle. I see I need better tactics than that, Naruto said, dodging a few slashes from the Kaguya. Creating a 50 clones, Naruto prepared to mob the man, to find out his weaknesses. However, he was stopped when Kimimaro formed 3 seals and put his hands to the ground. Instantly, he muttered "boned clones" as several skeletons rose out of the ground, before taking the form of the Kaguya. The 5 skeletal warriors proceeded to tear through Naruto's clones, sustaining hits but not disappearing. Taking out a kunai, Naruto threw it at a clone while dodging away from Kimimaro, but the clone took it to the head and remained alive, no poof. This is when Naruto got more serious. Pulling out ki, he charged, swiping off the heads of all 5 of the bone clones, hearing a satisfying poof as he saw them disappear. Nice trick, Kimimaro, if only your little friends could take a decent hit to the head. Naruto stopped talking, mostly because a bone was just stuck through his right arm. Turning around quickly, he saw the Kaguya warrior jumping away with a bloodied forearm bone being discarded. Lucky shot, Naruto muttered, before charging back into battle, clashing with the bone user several times a second. Growing weary of the Kenjutsu battle, Kimimaro jumped away and began forming hand seals, but before they were complete a Rasengan was driven into his back from a well-placed clone. Ooh, rookie mistake, Naruto commented, before charging, ki in one hand, a Rasengan in the other. Except this Rasengan was different. It had all the colors he'd ever seen, and some he didn't know existed. However, he didn't have long to study this creation before it was right in front of him. Doing a quick replacement, he saw the body he'd replaced himself with get utterly destroyed, disintegrated, while Naruto shouted, "Amorphia Rasengan." Life Source Swirling Ball, Naruto was quickly in front of the Kaguya again, swinging ki like a madman. A skilled madman. Blocking, he fired several bullets of finger joints at the blonde-haired man, but they were dodged. Rushing forward, he feinted right, then stuck the bone fist into Naruto. Before he poofed away. A clone, he though briefly, before receiving a kick to the back of the head. Well. The great Kaguyas aren't so great after all, Naruto taunted. However, he didn't see the Kaguya making more hand seals while getting up. He shouted his technique, one that he knew Naruto would hate. Kenjutsu, Bone World. They were soon in a world full of bones, a genjutsu that they could move around in freely. This Rokudame Hokage is my world. Whatever happens here will affect our minds outside. If you die here, you die there. Ready? The Kaguya didn't wait for an answer, instead sending wave after was of bones at Naruto from all directions. Some were dodged, some weren't. Needless to say, by the end of the assault, Naruto was fairly battered and bruised. Continuing the assault, the Kaguya sent more waves, until the blonde-haired man looked like he'd die from blood lost sooner than dysfunction. However, in his mind, Naruto was just beginning. Taking some amorphia he'd charged, Naruto performed the one medical jutsu he knew, and it actually healed him as fast as the Kyuubi. Until the amorphia ran out and it was back to normal speed again. This may be your world. But you can die here too. Naruto lit up all 100 kanji in both eyes and began shooting explosive seals at the Kaguya, landing a few on him directly and blowing him into some other bones on the wall, which stuck him there long enough for Naruto to lodge ki into his right shoulder, dispelling the technique. Quite a fight you put up. Let's try this. Naruto made a few hand seals before creating a wind conversion seal on his right hand and announcing his technique. Futon, Great Breakthrough. The wave of wind pushed back the Kaguya until he was ripped apart, to reveal a skeleton. Naruto quickly jumped to his side, dodging a fireball. Firing back a few water bullets, Naruto didn't expect any to hit, as they were blocked by a shield of earth. Making a few more hand seals, Naruto began charging ki to the limit, knowing that soon the climax of the battle would come, and Naruto would need all the amorphia he could get. Katan, Fire Dragon no Jutsu. A gigantic dragon spurted from Naruto's mouth, but was blocked by a water dragon from the Kaguya. The steaming mist soon sent Naruto's way by a wind jutsu. Naruto dodged out of the way, but barely caught the edge of hit, his arm receiving only minor burns. The pain wasn't too bad at this point, but that was one advantage the Kaguya had, with a constantly regenerating body, pain just lasted a shorter amount of time. Making a few more hand seals, Naruto sent a wind dragon towards the Kaguya, but it was blocked by a water shield. The barrage of jutsu continued for another minute. Before they stopped, the battlefield further blown apart, the remains of corpses and littered bones were few. What say we get this over with quicker? Naruto called across the field, breathing hard. Making 5 hand seals, Naruto slammed his hands to the ground and called out, Kuchios no Jutsu, at the same time as the Kaguya. Suddenly, a giant sloth and a giant dragon popped into existence. Naruto, why did you call me here? Falavora asked. The Queen of Sloths was not pleased, but knew when it was time for combat, lighting all her 100 eye seals, the same as Naruto. My queen. I needed your help for combat, Naruto said, stroking the top of her head gently, his own eyes burning just as brightly. Meanwhile the Kaguya warrior stood motionless atop the Dragon Lord, Ekiola, while they watched the sloth and its eyes. Kimimaro, I see you seek aid, but against the sloths? You couldn't handle such lazy things yourself. Pardon me, Ekiola, I didn't know what he would summon, Kimimaro said, chuckling inwardly at the hairy ape-like being before him. However, this was the wrong thing to say, as the combat began. Ekiola, do not underestimate us. Dodge this. Fuin, Void Rain. Thousands of gravity seals appeared on Ekiola, all to the maximum, pushing him to the ground so that he was bowing to the Queen of Sloths. Good dragon. Bow to your queen, Falavora said tauntingly. However, Ekiola wasn't one to take such crap. Using his will to stand up straight. Well, as straight as dragons can, he breathed out fire, which Falavora narrowly dodged. Fuin, 100 Seal Inferno, she announced, blowing off one of Ekiola's wings. The dragon howled in pain, but continued fighting. Regrowing the wing, he took flight, free from the gravity seals. Ekiola breathed fire down upon the Sloth Queen, who narrowly dodged again. Several fireballs later, Falavora was hit, but most of the damage was absorbed by an Amorphia-powered Rasengan from Naruto which sucked in the power. Falavora-sama, shall we finish them off? Maneuver 6. Hi youngling, Falavora responded, dodging more fireballs while the Kaguya smirked down at them. At once, both queen and student shouted their technique. Fuin, Joint Seal Dispel. In a burst of smoke, Falavora was gone, but so was Ekiola, as the Kaguya dropped to the ground. He cushioned his fall with chakra, but by this point both of them were low on chakra, so he didn't waste too much. What do you say we end this, Kimimaro? Naruto called over, in between breaths. The bone user didn't respond in words, but nodded and began performing seals. Naruto began a long string of seals as well, charging it with stored amorphia. These techniques had never seen the light of day, nor would they ever again if the world was lucky. They finished at approximately the same time, Kimimaro shouting his first. Kinjutsu, Mass Bone Dragon no Jutsu. 15 dragons made of bone began hurtling towards Naruto at nearly the speed of sounds. However, just before they got there, Naruto finished his technique, and opened his eyes, praying inwardly that it would work. Kinjutsu Fuin, Amorphia Void. Suddenly, a massive seal appeared before Naruto, encompassing all 15 dragons and the Kaguya. It lit, and a dome was formed around the area, covered in amorphia. All the dragons and the Kaguya were instantly vaporized, gone with no chance of revival. However, immediately after, Naruto fell to his knees, unable to contain the dome any longer as it exploded outwards, blowing him back through many trees. The last thing he saw before fading into unconsciousness was the battered faces of his guard. Next day, Naruto awoke still on the ground. Looking in front of him, he saw where his battered body had been thrown nearly 1,000 feet through trees, rocks, and skipping off the ground from the force of the explosion. Mentally kicking himself for using a move he still couldn't control, he let out a sigh. Soon, standing over him, was Chuji. "Hey bud, how ya feeling?" Chuji said with a grin. "How do you think?" Naruto grumbled out. All his joints felt sore, and his chakra was only half full. "Neji is also a medic, isn't he?" "Yes I am," came a voice from Naruto's other side. He turned to see Neji standing there, palms glowing green as he moved them over Naruto's body. "So. Let me rest for a few more hours, then we make our way to the southern front. All I need to do is beat the Uchiha," Naruto said, before trying to fall asleep. However, this was interrupted by Kiba. "Actually, we may as well go back to Konoha to patch you up. The assault on the south stopped a day ago when they broke through our forces. The strike force from Suna to clean up this area is already on its way, so we may as well get you back and wait for the next attack. Or you can wait on the southern front." "Ah. So that's what's going on. All of you, go find the strike force and aid it, I can get back to Konoha myself." "Hi, Naruto-sama." They all disappeared in a various clouds of smoke. As soon as they were gone, Naruto called out to the seemingly empty woods, "You can come out now." Kimimaro stepped out from the shadows, no longer hiding his presence. He was apparently blowback from the attack as well, getting hit with some of the amorphia. "I will fulfill Orochimaru's will, I will kill the one who killed him." "Yeah, I figured that was why you were into the fight," Naruto responded, dragging himself to his feet. "I don't suppose this can end with words, can it? We both know this can only end with blood. Though I must congratulate you on that technique, almost didn't have time for the substitution," Kimimaro said, slightly impressed. "Let's get this over with. And you should be honored, you're the first person I've ever tried to use that technique on." "Yes, honored. Well, let me let you feel honored as well." Going through a long string of hand seals, Naruto used the few seconds he got to pump out some amorphia through his body as medical chakra to heal himself. Grasping ki, he prepared for the assault to follow. Kinjutsu, Bone Dragon Transformation. Suddenly, Kimimaro began growing in odd proportions. A set of bat wings made of bone grew from his back. He expanded, growing a long tail also made of bone. His legs became longer and bent, in a reptilian fashion, his back arching, face elongating, and soon he was no longer Kimimaro, he was just a dragon made of bone. He let out an earth-shattering roar and charged the now-healed Naruto. Naruto dodged out of the way, but was hit from the side by the tail, a few spikes entering his body before he was slammed into a tree. The beast roared again and charged. Naruto, holding up his sword, prepared to block it, but didn't have the strength to. The tail swept around again, hitting him in the stomach and sending him back through a tree and into a rock. Naruto was dying, bleeding profusely, even while making amorphia and using it to heal the internal wounds he knew he wouldn't last long. The tail came barreling around again, but this time Naruto barely found the strength and dodged, hearing the explosion behind him. Lighting up his eyes, he barely got up to 15 lit before he felt the drain, slowly eating at his chakra. Pushing himself up to 25 seals in each eye, Naruto turned and charged at the dragon, blocking the tail with his sword and jamming it into the dragon's chest. Channeling chakra into ki, he began to draw out Kimimaro's soul, taking away his arms, then legs, tail, wings. Slowly, with each second passing, Naruto received more wounds as he tried to push Naruto off. Soon, the soul was drawn out, and Kimimaro fell to the ground lifeless. In his last moments, Naruto pulled ki from the dragon's body, and used what amorphia he could to heal himself internally before collapsing. One day later they would be found again by the strike force, and the Rokudaime Hokage would be taken home once again. 2 days after the battle, Naruto awoke to the sight of his loved ones. Hinata was on a chair by the bed, holding his hand in hers while she dozed. Tenten and Ino were on his other side, already asleep, while Temari, apparently, the boldest of them all, was snuggled against his backside. Noting he was still very tired, and that it was almost midnight, Naruto fell asleep again, waking up another 12 hours later. Wing up at noon, he found himself still in Temari's protective grasp, except now Hinata was on his other side, while Ino and Tenten were apparently off doing something else. "Hello. You too. Nice pillows." They didn't stir, just kept on sleeping, while Naruto tried to carefully remove himself from their grasp. However, as soon as he got out of one girl's arms, the other would wrap theirs around him. Soon he heard giggling coming from the two, and realized it was their little game. "Alright, you two, up," Naruto said. "Ah, but Naruto-kun, aren't you happy we both want you?" Temari said, pouting cutely. "I'd be happier if I could get out of bed. I need to go to the bathroom." "Then hold it, we need a big soft pillow," Temari said again. "Hi, Naruto-kun," came Hinata's soft reply. He couldn't tell if she was awake or just talking in her sleep, but Naruto was in no condition to fight. He decided to hold it, waiting another hour until they got out of bed so that he could use his bathroom. By that point he just barely made it. Showering, he came out in a towel, got dried and dressed, then went downstairs to join his 4 fiancées for lunch. However, when it was finished, he heard a knock at the door. Going to the door, Naruto saw the last thing he wanted to see that afternoon. A Chunin messenger was holding a letter from Kakashi. Opening it, Naruto began to read. "Hokage-sama, this letter is to be given to you as soon as possible. I took a barracks of our ninjas to the southern front to fight, but we keep getting cut down or retreating. They can't hold that front much longer, we need you to stop. Sasuke, we can't take him. Please, when you get this, take what you need and meet at our southernmost outpost. If we can't hold them there, then they'll be at Konoha by the time you arrive. Konoha believes in its Kages, for their protection. Now we need yours." Kakashi Naruto was back to the table in a flash. He let the letter drop on the table before he kissed each one of them on the lips, taking a little more time for Hinata before dashing upstairs. Grabbing his ninja equipment, he got himself fully equipped. White coat, black long-sleeved shirt, green jounin vest, all 3 sealing belts, black ANBU pants, black combat boots, and ki on his back. Naruto dashed back downstairs, then left the building, taking out a Hiruzen kunai and chucking it as far as he could south. Waiting a few minutes, Naruto went to the Hokage's office and left a letter telling Hinata she would be in charge, to be delivered officially tomorrow. She didn't need the pressure now. Naruto then found the pull of the kunai and in a flash was there. He briefly congratulated himself on his aim, recognizing the southernmost camp only a few dozen yards away. However, he stopped congratulating himself when he saw the state of the base. Konoha ninja were running away from something. Naruto could feel the killing intent wash over him as he got closer, and as soon as he entered, he saw the source, the man he was looking for, with his sword in Kakashi's chest. "Kakashi!" Naruto shouted, rushing to the battlefield. However, the man was already long dead, his skin clearly pale. The figure with the sword soon dropped the corpse, before turning to Naruto. With 2 red eyes with a shuriken shape in them, the figure, long black hair, wielding a black-edged sword. Uchiha Sasuke. Well, well. The Rokudaime Hokage, also known as the symbol god of Konoha, wielder of the great weapon ki, the soul stealer's weapon, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, exactly who I wanted to see. Sasuke announced loudly, pushing the corpse of Kakashi off his sword. Before it even hit the ground it was in Naruto's hands, cradled in his arms while Naruto stood resolutely where he'd been before. Uchiha Sasuke, traitor of Konoha, shrank missing Nin, and apparently the wielder of another great weapon. Your sins are too heavy, here you will die, for Kakashi, for Tsunade, for the sake of Konoha. Naruto said, speaking in the same ominous tone. Their eyes met and locked, each with fire blazing behind their glares, until Sasuke looked down again, resheathing his sword while Naruto put ki away, having drawn it subconsciously. You were always in the spotlight, weren't you, getting power that rightfully belongs to me. Today I will get my revenge, your Jujutsu is no match for my own. Sasuke raised his head, his Manjikyu Sharingan eyes meeting Naruto's eyes, which now had all 50 seal kanji in each eyelid. You're a fool and a traitor. I worked for my power, whereas you tried to steal yours from others. How's that cursed? Seal on your shoulder working, with its creator dead? Naruto said maliciously. Sasuke tried to draw the power from the seal on his shoulder, but found that it was gone, no trace of it left. Which could only mean Kimimaro was dead. I didn't need his power anyway, Sasuke said, a little less confident than before. My own still surpasses you, now that you have no demon. You cannot borrow power either. This is true, but my own surpasses that of the demon. Of course, this was not true, but it still carried some effect, no one really knowing Naruto's true power. Their voices lowered to a whisper across the battlefield. All the Konoha had long since fled, one of them taking Kakashi's body from Naruto as he passed. Naruto had done what he could, and it appeared the copy ninja was only in a near-death state, thanks to various blood-restoring seals and healing, administered by Naruto through seals in his hands while the conversation took place. You know, I once actually believed that your Jujutsu could outclass my own, until I found the next level. You see. After you released your demon, I headed toward the signature and lucky me. Sasuke began. I found the last remaining Sharingan user besides myself, the first to possess it, Uchiha Madara. Naruto's eyes widened in shock at this. The man must have been over 200 years old. How could he be alive? Sasuke chuckled slightly at Naruto's shock, before continuing. Oh yes, he is indeed very old. Or was, Sasuke said, putting emphasis on the was. Do you happen to know what happens if a Manjikyu user absorbs the Manjikyu of another top user? They reach the next form. This is what I show you now. They will be the last eyes you ever see. Manjikyu Sharingan, Hell 2-inch. Sasuke's eyes changed. From the normal Manjikyu into something far more fearsome. Changing, morphing, the three-pointed shuriken of the once feared ultimate Sharingan became a pentagram. A normal Sharingan in the center, whirling rapidly. Sasuke made 2 slow hand seals, in which time Naruto made 5 as they called out the most powerful techniques simultaneously. Tsukuyomi Hell. 100 Seal Mind Rebirth. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto was on a cross, a giant nail through both his hands, trapping him on the stake. His legs hung limply. Suddenly, a hungry pain erupted on his left thigh, eating at his flesh and burning it away until his leg was gone. Naruto looked down and saw his leg reforming, bloodied, and saw the retreating hand of something that couldn't be described as humanoid. Just demonic. Naruto looked up and studied his surroundings. He was, for all intents and purposes, in hell. Fire was lit in a circle around him, demons just around it, most with either pikes or elongated arms, allowing them to reach him. The retreating hand belonged to a gangly demon, his tongue protruded from his mouth. He had short red horns growing in a crown-like pattern from his head. His thin body showed no muscle whatsoever, his long arms just as bare. His hands had 6 fingers each tip ending in a claw. His legs were hairy, and he was wearing but a loincloth. His feet were also clawed. His skin was all completely red, like fire. Ironically, in his left hand, he held up an orb of fire. Many of the other demons had human-like proportions and were wearing much the same, but Naruto had little time to contemplate this, as the demon that had attacked him before stuck out his hand containing fire, and pushed it into Naruto's chest, dragging it slowly down his body, melting much of it away. The pain was excruciating. Naruto's nerves were ultra-sensitive, even the prick of a needle could have caused him to pass out. The fire being dragged through his body drove him to the limit. But he couldn't fall unconscious. So he did all he could. He screamed out in pain, his lungs regenerating so he could keep screaming forever, the tortured soul that he was. This continued for a whole week in Naruto's mind. Before something changed. The demons before Naruto left, as the ground trembled. Naruto thought the technique must have been ending. Which would be good, since his mind was practically broken. However, he was not so lucky. A gigantic demon rose before him. A familiar one. The Kyuubi no Kitsune stood, in all its glory, before Naruto. 150 feet tall, its tail swishing around behind it. It looked down at Naruto, before smiling. Well, mortal. Looks like the Uchihas are good for something. He sent you to hell. And now I get to do what I wish with you. Oh, how I'll enjoy this. The Kyuubi uttered in a morbidly happy voice. Before Naruto could even attempt to say something, he felt a pain that made the previous week feel like nothing. The tips of the tails of the kitsune had narrowed into spears, all rapidly shooting in and out of Naruto's body, through his eyes making them bleed out, through his crotch, neutering him in the most painful way imaginable, though his joints, the elbows, the knees, through his heart, through his throat, and through all vital areas, giving them only time to regenerate before destroying them again. Then, the kitsune lit his tails with chakra, burning the rest of Naruto, the only constant being his brain. And then, after a week of torture at the kitsune's mercy, it was over. Sasuke's mindscape. Sasuke was in Konoha, in the woods of the forest surrounding it. He saw a young Sakura, remembering the love that he could never shake. It was the killing of emotions that brought power. Wasn't it? Sasuke saw his experiences with Sakura. Their first date. Oh, Sasuke-kun, that was great. A 12-year-old Sakura said happily, walking with Sasuke out from a movie theater. They'd just seen a rather popular movie about a princess from Snow Country. Walking down T Street, Sasuke found himself watching Sakura as she walked slightly ahead of him, swaying her hips. She was actually quite attractive. Sakura-kun, want me to walk you home? Sasuke asked politely. It's getting dark out. I just want to make sure you're okay. Now this, of course, was completely false. Even as just genin they could take out basically any civilian. She just nodded, grasping his hand tighter while he caught up to her, walking beside her. They soon got to her house, and he walked off at the door, though not before she gave him a peck on the cheek. This was a painful memory, as it was the first time he'd actually minded going home to an empty house. Her warmth. It was undeniable. He was dreading the next memory. Their first kiss. Sasuke was in the woods in T-Country on a crank mission, throwing kunai at branches, venting frustration from having been outclassed by ninja earlier that day. He noticed a person following him, and decided to try to stop quickly, to see if they were after him or just going in that direction. He tried to stop, but the branch he tried to stop on was slippery and he fell, rolling off to the side and coming to a clearing, in front of a pond. The figure stopped, then followed him, out to the clearing. The pond was truly breathtaking in its beauty. It was a tranquil place, the setting sun lighting it up with yellow, orange, red, and near the middle, purple. This only accentuated the beautiful pink and red Sasuke saw as he got up and looked down at the girl before him. Sakura-kun. Why were you following me? I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You know, after today. Falling on your butt isn't so bad, better than being useless. You aren't useless. I need you here at least. And I'm just a little sore, just wish I could have done more. Sakura gave him a slap on the ass and giggled as he winced. They'd been going out for the last few months or so, and had gotten much closer. Sakura had even learned of his clan. Hee, Sasuke-kun. Guess you are sore, huh? Yeah, real funny. I gotta rest. Sasuke said, before sitting down again, letting his feet hang over the edge of the small cliff leading to the edge of the pond. Sakura sat down next to him, and leaned against him. He put his arm around her, and felt happy that someone understood him and would only laugh playfully. With him, not at him. Someone he liked to be around. The sun set almost fully, before they looked at each other again, and Sasuke and Sakura let their eyes meet. Sasuke's eyes flicked over to the kunai he dropped when he tripped, before focusing back. Go ahead, Dozo. Sakura spoke softly, motioning for him to go train like he wanted to. However, her lips were so inviting. Soft, pink, juicy. Sakura was about to speak again before Sasuke reached down and brought her lips to his. The kiss lasted a few minutes, before they pulled away. Sakura just stared at him, blushing, before pulling him down and kissing him once more. By this point Sasuke was really hurting. He'd killed someone who had meant this much to him. Someone who could have made him happy, without the revenge that he now couldn't take. Without hate, someone who could have kept him strong. It began again. Good luck in the finals, Sasuke-kun. Sakura said sweetly, giving him a kiss for good luck. Sasuke returned the kiss with passion, knowing what he would have to do. He knew what was coming, and didn't want to see it. However, it was something else. Unexpected. Well, Dobe, we shall see now who has the power. If I can kill you, I can kill Itachi, right? Right? Sasuke said, charging a Chidori in his right hand. He was fighting Naruto. That time his Sharingan had been temporarily sealed. Sasuke. The girl screamed, her pink hair bouncing as she ran into the clearing. Somehow, even as he still attracted fangirls. Sasuke, stop. You don't want to kill, please, stop this, the girl pleaded. Sasuke was prepared to see the Chidori go through her. Killing her. But it didn't happen. Sasuke, in the memory, allowed the Chidori to collapse, then reverted to normal, slowly. He let his Sharingan eyes revert to his normal onyx ones, then slowly, embraced the girl before him. All he heard in his mindscape was, what could have been? Redeem yourself, the memories, the alteration, repeated over and over for more times than Sasuke cared to count. It seemed as if it lasted a lifetime, until finally it ended. Normal time, Sasuke and Naruto both fell to their knees, gasping for breath. Barely a second had passed since they'd announced their techniques, as made evident by their voices echoing in the camp. It lasted barely seconds, the gasping, before both of them looked up at each other. Red.emp.tien.is.4.the.weak.dobe. Sasuke managed after about 20 seconds. Then. U.know.the.con se ces. Naruto muttered out. He shakily made it to his feet, his eyes had, for the first time in ages, reverted to the sky blue Naruto was born with. Sasuke, likewise, made it to his feet, his eyes reverted to their onyx color. Pre.pair.to.die. Naruto managed, dropping all weights and pulling out ki, using it to support his weight. Sasuke too removed his weights, before pulling out his sword. I'd like you to meet keys brother. Dre. The sword was short, about a 1.5-foot blade, and an 8-inch handle. With a pitch black blade and a black handle, it pulsed black in the same way ki pulses green. Sasuke gradually shifted his weight, eventually standing in his sword stance, Dre flat out in front of him, parallel to the ground at eye level. His left hand came up and grasped Dre's handle, before pulling away. A copy of Dre rested in his hand now, pulsing the same black. And this is Naruto, naturally, brought himself into his stance. He fished around his reserves for chakra, attempting to make his actions a little faster, but found he had about one, and it looked like Sasuke was in similar condition. Enough chakra for about 2 Razengans, enough in Sasuke for about 2 Chidores. Let's end this, Naruto said, straining to get out the syllables. Yes, Sasuke said, straining in a similar fashion. With that, they both charged a tiny bit of chakra to their legs, and charged. Sasuke brought his right hand, swinging Dre so as to break Naruto's guard. Expertly parrying, Naruto did 2 cross cuts with ki, but both were parried by Sasuke, who proceeded to duck under Naruto's guard, rolling and throwing Ein at Naruto. Not expecting this, the sword sunk into Naruto, before disappearing to leave a gaping wound. Sasuke got back up, and pulled another Ein from Dre, once again wielding 2 short swords. Lucky shot, Naruto said quietly, mostly to himself. Putting a seal against his stomach, he found himself not healing. That's right. I don't even have enough chakra to activate the first level Fuingen. It's like it's gone from me, like his Sharingan is gone from him. Naruto charged again, plunging ki in a straight line down towards Sasuke's head. He, of course, blocked it with both short swords, before throwing it back at Naruto. Thinking he created an opening, Sasuke threw Ein at Naruto, and it stuck into him, before disappearing, creating another wound. What Sasuke hadn't noticed was the foot flying towards his chest. A level 2 Rasengan, not controlled but still potent, was concentrated on the sole of Naruto's foot, which drove into Sasuke's stomach, blowing through him. Naruto was down, his sword supporting him as the 2 gaping holes in him continued to bleed. He'd missed the heart on his last attack, but it was still worth the hit. Sasuke was barely standing. A hole, 6 inches in diameter, was going straight through his chest, vaporizing his stomach. He couldn't have thrown up if he wanted to. It's over, Naruto said, blood pouring from his mouth as his punctured kidneys and damaged lung cried out in protest. And not yet, Sasuke muttered. He pointed his hand as Naruto, grasping only Dre now, which had grown to the length of a long sword. Be black. Light. Ning. Sasuke gasped out. A black substance, moving at impossible angles, flew towards Naruto, who blocked with ki and a small shield of amorphia. Which didn't last. He was on the ground soon, writhing in agony as the lightning scorched his skin and insides. It soon let up, and everything went black. Naruto was unconscious, dying. Sasuke struggled, but walked over to Naruto, and spit on his face, though it contained more blood than saliva. He raised his sword, prepared to stab it through Naruto's throat, when a kunai came from nowhere. It knocked Dre away from Naruto's throat, though it remained in Sasuke's grasp. Get away from him, Tenten yelled, appearing from the trees, appearing to have been moving at top speed. Behind her emerged Hinata, Temari, and Ino, all fully equipped for battle. You live. This time. Namikaze, Sasuke muttered before sinking into the ground and disappearing. None of them bothered to chase after him, all 4 of Naruto's fiancés crouching over him, trying to heal him. With low-level medic techniques, and the help of Naruto's sealing belts, which contained healing seals, they stabilized him well enough to bring him back to Konoha Hospital. 2 weeks later. Please be okay, please. I don't know what I'd do without you. Please. Hinata whimpered. She hadn't left Naruto's side for all of the 2 weeks. Ino, Temari, and Tenten had been just as vigilant, though they occasionally went home for showering, or went to the Hokage's office to help out. The war had ended, due to Dust declaring neutrality to rebuild itself separate from IWA and Kyuubi, while Kyuubi was destroyed by a transformed Gaara using the full tail of power and turning into a giant raccoon, while IWA stopped hostilities to help Kyuubi rebuild and to keep the war from weakening them any further. It was no alliance, but it was peace. All I want from life is you. Please be okay. Hinata continued. Her voice was long since cracking, from having been talking for so long. If only a familiar voice could help. A doctor chimed in. Hinata-sama, you should go home. Even with his recovery rate, he won't be up for another few weeks. We aren't masters of healing the mind like Tsunadesima was. This will take time. Gomen, but I refuse to leave his side. When he wakes up, I want to see him first. I want him to see me, to be welcomed back to this world. By me. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto was sitting before the yin-yang symbol in his mind with the 9 tails entwined within and emerging from the symbol. The fox heads replacing the circles, and the intricacies of the seal which coated the wall with each tail of power gained access to. Touching the wall as he once had when it granted power, he now found the wall cold. It was the absence of the great fox. The memories of his torture played over again in his mind, surrounding him, but they didn't bother him as much as the one feeling which plagued his mind with confusion. Betrayal. The great fox had betrayed him in hell, or a genjutsu imitating hell. It seemed so real, but was quite clearly fake at the same time. Was I that bad to the fox? I mean, I merged with him, then expelled him. There were no thoughts like with Gaara and his demons so long ago, no more talking to it. So then why does this bother me? Naruto brought both hands to the symbol on the wall, tilted his head, and wept. Tears streamed down his face. If I cannot protect the strong, how can I protect the weak? How can I move on with life knowing that the one person, no demon that helped me most will betray me, for being the host that I was? He may have been evil, but he never really acted that way. And I took his power from him, and made it my own, before throwing it away. I could have used it differently. But I expelled it. Why? Why? The answers simply wouldn't come. Naruto soon left the wall, after wiping the tears from his eyes. He looked around his mind, opening doors, seeing the various ways that the fox had helped him, before coming across a conclusion he hadn't expected. He always wanted me happy, even if he didn't always show it. He was there for advice. He wanted me to have kits. The same way he referred to me as his kit. That is why I will live on. For Hinata, for Tenten, Temari, Ino. I will live. Hospital. Naruto awoke, sitting straight up and gasping for air. The first thing he did was look over to his sides. Sure enough, all 4 of his fiancées were there, staring at him wide-eyed. You were right, Hinata. I could get lost in his eyes right now. Temari said, staring into the pits of sky blue that were Naruto's natural eye color. She was the only one who had never seen it before, and the rest thought they would never see it again. Naruto relaxed a bit, taking in his surroundings. He was glomped by an ecstatic, but stinky, Hinata who literally leapt on him, showering him in kisses while the other 3 girls looked on slightly jealous but happy. Did he get away? Naruto asked, breaking the happy nature of the room. All of them looked hesitantly at Tenten, causing Naruto to look at her as well. Yes. He was about to kill you but I knocked away his sword. She said quietly. Then we must prepare for the next attack, Naruto said, his combat mode returning to him. Get Kakashi. Before any of them could tell him it wouldn't be necessary, Kakashi appeared from just outside the window. Naruto. He said, the missing honorific greatly appreciated by the blonde-haired Hokage. The war is over. If your wives would consent, I would like to bring you up to date. You've been out for 2 weeks, I think you deserve a prompt explanation from those of us that have been running this village in your stead. Naruto simply nodded, as Temari closed the door and put a borrowed silencing seal around the room, and the explanations began. 2 hours later, Naruto was digesting the new information, while recovering from the pain still evident in much of his body. He spoke shakily, the painkillers having worn off, but he was not in terrible pain. So basically, the war is over. Dust, Kumo, and IWA are rebuilding. Suna lost most of its forces, as did Konoha in the major assaults, and neutrality has been declared. The village is rebuilding well and should be back to normal in a few months, and the academy is running the same to keep it up. All that is left is for me to deal with the masses of paperwork and a few more major things, and we're back on track. That's about it. Kakashi said, flipping through his book, despite the fact that the 4 girls in the room were sporting glares directed at him. Okay. Last major decisions: get the cargo from Wave Country here faster, we'll need it to help with the rebuilding. Secondly, start Plan Zeta. Kakashi looked surprised for a moment before nodding and poofing away in a cloud of smoke. The girls in the room were about to ask Naruto what Plan Zeta was, but were preempted by his snoring. Getting a positive report from the doctor, the 4 girls trooped home. They would just have to wait until tomorrow. Next day, Hinata was rushing to Naruto's room. There had been disturbances in the night, loud screaming from his room, but the door couldn't be opened. Activating her Byakugan, Hinata hit a few key points on the door, before using a palm strike to blast it down. In front of her, sword in hand, was Naruto. Only, the sword was not pointed at a foe, or even at her for having intruded. It was pointing at himself. Naruto had his sword through his gut, twisting it in a kind of seppuku. Naruto-kun! Hinata screamed, before rushing to his side. His left hand flew out and knocked her away, smashing her against the wall. I can't live with it. Naruto said, sobbing as he tried to kill himself. However, his body would not die. Blood was dripping down, and Naruto felt his body straining to stay alive, despite his clear intention to die. Hell! Naruto whispered, before dropping to his knees. Ki let out a pulse, dislodging itself from Naruto and healing him at the same time. It flew across the room, skidding on the linoleum floor as it escaped Naruto's clutches. Even his sword wouldn't let him die. Naruto's cries of pain did not fade, however, until a good couple more seconds. All he saw was darkness, before the nightmares began again, and he began writhing as before. Naruto-kun, whispered Hinata from her spot by a cabinet. Some blood was coming from where she'd pulled her arm from the wall, but she cared little for it, moving over to Naruto's side and grasping him in a warm hug. His cries and movement lessened gradually, until soon he was resting somewhat peacefully. A trickle of blood leaked from his nose, but Hinata looked at it with a smile. At least he's having good dreams. Can't let him sleep alone anymore. She stayed by him, on the floor, for another hour before he awoke again. Finding himself in her arms, he sighed peacefully, before kissing her gently and looking her in the eyes. Thank you, he whispered dreamily. He picked himself up, balancing Hinata in his arms against his chest so as to not leave her embrace. I owe you one. Hinata just looked at him, then leaned in and kissed him. It lasted all of about a minute before she drew back, before whispering huskily in his ear, alone, wine, and sex and we're even. Surprisingly, Hinata only sported a small blush, whilst Naruto turned deep red. Deal. He agreed. Forgetting about his now healed wound, he grabbed Ki and slung it on his back, then used Hiruzen to go back to the estate, Hinata's bedroom. It was rarely used, as Hinata usually slept with Naruto, but it was still kept in good order. To make up for his actions. Well. They had a good morning, Hinata's bedroom, 30 minutes later, wow. Better than the first time, Naruto huffed, panting from the exertion. He was flat on his back on her bed, Hinata at his side, one arm still wrapped around him. They'd done it 3 times in 20 minutes and were both fairly tired. Nah. First was best, Hokage-sama. Hinata said, teasingly. Hinata liked being punished, so they'd started off with her being spanked on each cheek until it was pink. She liked being dominated, so Naruto was in control, until round 3 when she rode him like there was no tomorrow. I personally liked my view, said a voice from the doorway. Naruto looked up and saw Ino standing there. He quickly covered his and Hinata's privates with the blanket, before asking angrily, "How long have you been there?" "Oh, not long," she replied nonchalantly. "About 6 minutes. By the way, Naruto, nice dick." At that she was received a pillow to the face, having not expected it. The force moved her out of the room, an opportunity Naruto used to create a Kage Bunshin who closed and sealed the door, which then promptly dispelled. Naruto was treated by the sight of seeing Hinata from 2 angles. Damn. I am a lucky man. Well, Naruto-kun, feel better? Oh, much. Now come on, we better get ready for the day or else Ino is going to tell the others about it before you get the chance to. Hinata squealed and jumped in the shower. Despite her shyness, she liked to brag about that kind of thing, a fact Naruto knew well. This may be why some women he didn't even know looked at him as if they were imagining naughty things. Though it may have been for other reasons. For years later, after that incident in the hospital, Naruto got used to sleeping with Hinata and his other fiancées at night. The nightmares of hell mostly left him, and rarely did he ever have problems sleeping. The rebuilding of Konoha was complete and trade routes were underway. Wave, Tea, Waterfall, and other various small countries, along with Konoha's major ally, Suna, set up a trading network and made their alliances official, leaving Iwa, Kumo, and Dust to work themselves out. They were gradually weakening, as opposed to growing stronger, and things seemed to be looking up for Konoha. The next generation of shinobi arrived, with increasingly strong genin and thus increasingly strong chunin, jounin, and anbu. Vlad, Asuka, and Churo became leaders of the Hunternins, anbu, and demolition divisions respectively, and other once strong genin became such leaders. The customs of the past Konoha were just that, the past. The Konoha ruling system was also reformed. No longer were clans separate entities with their own laws, as of Plan Zeta. Zeta described a Konoha with integrated clan systems, mixing bloodlines to create still stronger shinobi, clan leaders working together for the improvement of Fire Country in Konoha. The entire clan system was reformed, with heirs of clans mingling to find the best combinations. All clans had the same types of rules, but had the same rights as any citizen of Konoha, only custom differentiating clans. New bloodlines were taken in by Konoha, creating new clans. The Hayaton bloodline of Kiri, as well as abandoned bloodlines during the war from Iwa and Kumo. Soon, there could be found 2-year-olds with a Byakugan and the ability to conjure lightning or ice. Crossbreeds, the next generation of bloodline limits. Plan Zeta also brought in a new ruling system for Konoha. The clan heads were now a committee of their own. Aburame Shino, Inazuka Kiba, Hyuga Hanabi, Yamanaka Inoichi, Akimichi Churo, Shinomura Asuka, Nara Shikamaru, and the rest of the heirs were made clan heads, along with heads of the new clans to enter into Konoha. This council oversaw the decisions of the civilian council which fueled the ninja community by helping bring in missions. With the civilians working easily with the Hokage, Naruto, the system became more sufficient, corruption basically impossible. This was Plan Zeta, the plan created by Naruto at the beginning of his dream, and it worked perfectly. Marriage soon followed the completion of Plan Zeta, having taken 4 years to complete that among other programs. It was time. The 22-year-old Naruto, the Rokudaime Hokage, held his marriage in front of the whole village, allowing all of them to come. Even Gaara and Kankuro traveled from Suna to see their sister get married. It was enormous. The altar itself was placed on top of the Hokage tower. A giant fountain stood behind it, magnificent in all ways, enhancing the beauty of the scene before the people of Konoha. Hyuga Hinata, Yamanaka Ino, Sabaka no Temari, and Iketana Tenten were all walking up a giant velvet-covered ramp leading to the top of the Hokage tower. The aisles themselves were set on platforms equal in height to the Hokage tower. The walking of the four brides looked much like the ascension of an angel to heaven, this hypothesis greatly reinforced by the fact that all of them looked like angels. Hinata led the way, a strapless white gown on with many lacy accessories, including an array of lace which trailed down her arms in a spiderweb-type fashion. The veil across her face left it somewhat obscured, but she was still very beautiful. Behind her was Ino. She, like Hinata, was wearing a strapless white dress, except the lace trailed down her sides making flower shapes. Her hair was down, like Hinata's, and trailed to her lower back. Her face couldn't be seen beneath the veil, but she was sporting a huge smile. Behind her, Tenten wore the same, with her hair down, and behind her. Everyone gasped. Temari. Temari was wearing something formal. She had on a white dress, with straps so as to keep it on at least somewhat, but she'd managed to make the wedding dress look more alluring than any though possible. It now hugged her figure. The gown had a slit up the front going to mid-thigh, exposing most of her legs as she walked, and had a long trail behind her. In the audience, Anko thought to herself, I want a wedding dress like that someday. All four of them were walking gracefully up the ramp to the pedestal where their soon-to-be stood. He was wearing formal Hokage robes, as per tradition, and the hat which he lowered as they came, before placing it on again when they arrived. His hair trailed down to an inch or two beneath his shoulders, and with time after Kyuubi's chakra left him, his whisker marks had faded, until now they no longer existed. He looked almost exactly like the yondaime. Kakashi performed the ceremony quickly, as Temari had told the other girls if they wanted to make vows, it was an effort in futility. None of them would ever leave him, so just let her get her shot at him. In other words, the girls took more basic vows, before Naruto made his. He said his vows, then turned to Vlad who was standing nearby in an ANBU mask, who then handed Naruto the rings. Slipping them each onto his wives' fingers, he then received one which each of his wives was touching, signifying their whole bond. You may kiss your brides, said Kakashi. And he did so, with gusto. The town erupted in applause as he one by one gave each of his wives a long, deep kiss, and laughter when Temari and Tenten began pulling Naruto away from the altar. Naruto waved feebly and he was dragged away, and Hinata and Ino soon followed. Tonight would be amazing. And the next, and the next, and the next. That night, Hinata and Naruto were sitting on opposite edges of the bed, both nude and in towels. They had been in this situation before, and it was still sort of awkward for them, as Hinata was shy about her body. Naruto was a little shy as well, but was usually the one to take charge. That's how Hinata liked it. Moving over to the other side of the bed, Naruto took out What I Want to Do with Naruto Volume 7, them having made more overtime since he wasn't always available, and Ino, Tenten, and Temari were really horny from having waited so long, and asked, what chapter? Incoming series of short lemons. I am not great at writing these, but they were requested. I'm trying here. Hinata pointed to chapter 3, which Naruto turned to and read. Yeah, Hinata was feisty today. Naruto soon found himself flat on his back, Hinata teasing him with her lips, just barely inches from his. She threw off his towel, leaving him nude, before graping his member and beginning to rub it. Naruto moaned in pleasure, but as soon as he opened his mouth Hinata seized it, locking lips with him. Their tongues danced, until soon Naruto felt his member being encased by Hinata. She dropped off her towel, letting it fall to the floor, and squatted down so that she held his length inside her. It didn't hurt anymore, it just felt good. She began to pump up and down on him, while he fondled her breasts which were bouncing in tempo to her thrusts. Naruto soon joined in, his entire cock moving in and out with its full length, pressure building and building, until Naruto was forced to let go of Hinata's breasts in order to keep up with the speed. Until he burst. Hinata released at the same time, and soon they were panting, both red in the face from the exertion. Naruto then deviated from the original plan. Flipping Hinata onto her stomach, she gasped out, "What are you doing?" "Oh, nothing," Naruto said, grinning mischievously. He put her down on her hands and knees, and then thrust himself into her again, doggy style. Pushing in and out, her breathing grew louder. Ah, 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 ah. She continued to grow louder, occasionally moaning out Naruto's name. He soon stopped thrusting, leaning over Hinata and rubbing her breasts, kissing her neck as she did so. She continued to moan, his entire length still in her, his hands running over her body, caressing her breasts and pinching the nipples, to which she cried his name, Naruto. At this, he created a Kage Bunshin, who stuck his dick into Hinata's mouth. She began sucking him off as he thrust into her on the other side, building speed. Soon both sides released in an explosion of sperms, and the Kage Bunshin disappeared, giving Naruto the very, very pleasant memory of Hinata's tongue moving over and around his dick. They both then lay on the bed, and fell asleep in each other's arms. Tomorrow night Naruto would great to try out his first virgin in a long time. Next night, the day had been wonderful. They spent it mostly at the hot spring, getting a shared one for them all. They relaxed, drank wine, and talked in the spring for a while before getting out when they felt they would pass out. After clearing their heads, Tenten, Ino, and Temari competed in rock-paper-scissors, and to Tenten and Temari's disappointment, Ino won. She would get him for the night. Yamanaka Ino, perfectly shaped body, luscious curves, cup breasts, and platinum blonde hair, was standing in Naruto's doorway in a denim skirt which only came to her upper thigh, nearly showing her thong underneath, and a purple tank top which was tight across her body, exposing her breasts as she was wearing no bra. Naruto was in the bed across the room, looking at her but trying. And failing not to ogle her body. "Well, Naruto-kun, I've been waiting a long time," she said in a seductive voice. Naruto searched for words, but could find none. He also found he could convince himself to move. He felt further paralyzed when Ino leaned over and took him into her arms. "Come on, I want it. Hard." Ino spoke softly, though forcefully. She proceeded to rip off his clothing, throwing it to the side without care. Naruto caught on and ripped hers off as well, discarding it no more carefully than she had. Ino pushed Naruto off the bed, laying down on it naked before him. Getting up, he just saw her lying there, and did not waste the opportunity. Leaping onto her, he bound her arms to the bed above her head with his left hand, using the other hand to caress her right breast. Cupping it in his hand, he pinched the nipple between his thumb and forefinger, eliciting strong moans from Ino. Taking the left nipple into his mouth, he nibbled on it slightly, her breathing growing louder. "I want it, damn it," she whispered into his ear, more forcefully than before. Naruto paid this no heed and removed his head from her breast, trailing butterfly kisses up her body and neck, finally latching onto her lips with his own. They both moaned into the kiss, tongues dancing, then fighting for control, which Naruto eventually won. However, Ino broke away, and gave him a glare and a bit of killing intent. Naruto decided not to delay the woman any longer. Flipping her over, she complied and on her hands and knees felt Naruto slowly enter her. "Wait! Stop! You're gonna split me in half!" Ino shrieked as he pushed his member in more. "I thought you liked it hard, didn't you?" Naruto said, hard, with emphasis. However, Ino didn't get the chance to respond as Naruto pushed all the way into her. Finding no resistance, he casually commented, "Not you first. You must have experience then. I'll have to make a better impression." Thrusting into her, he brought his hands to her hips, rocking he in tune to himself, and picking up the pace. She caught on and began rocking against him, moving forward when he pulled out, moving back when he pushed in. Almost his entire length was moving in and out of her. Their breath grew, as Ino began moaning Naruto's name. Naruto just began breathing louder, panting with the effort. Their pace grew faster, he fucked her harder. Faster, harder, fastest, hardest. She stopped moaning and started screaming his name, as they climaxed at the same moment. Naruto-kun. Inoheim. And with that they both collapsed. However, they were far from over, as Ino pounced on Naruto once again. And they fucked. Long into the night. Next day, the day was spent at a festival in Konoha Center. They were briefly interrupted so that Naruto could do some work, but he sent Akage Bunshin to do it. Winning various stuffed animals, and getting free food for himself and his wives, which he paid for anyway since he could, Naruto spent the day pleasing his wives, though. Ino was walking rather haphazardly today. Returning to the estate, Naruto went up to his bedroom expecting that either Temari or Tenten would come up. However, he was surprised when they both walked in. "We decided neither of us want to wait another night. I'm sure you won't have problems keeping up with both of us, right?" However, she got no answer from Naruto, as he was still ogling their bodies. Temari was wearing a black lace bra and thong combo, while Tenten was in a red see-through teddy with mostly see-through red panties. Their bodies were perfection. Seeing Naruto blushing red and unable to form words, Temari and Tenten looked at each other before moving forward towards him. Majestically swaying their hips, they decided to tease him to start with. Temari ran her hands over Tenten, holding her in her arms. She began to caress her, having her giving small moans, until Tenten whispered in Temari's ear something that made her smile. Nodding her head, they began to dance around for Naruto, swaying their bodies and teasing him suggestively. By this point Naruto had realized what was happening. And his member had long gone stiff. Getting up, he took them into his arms, both his left and right hand snaking downwards, his left grasping Tenten's firm rear, his right doing the same with Temari's. This elicited small squeals from the both of them, before they decided to get serious. After all, it isn't nice to surprise a lady like that. Temari worked on getting Naruto's shirt off of him, while Tenten removed his pants and boxers, and in less than a second they threw him onto the bed, and crawled up to him, each with a hand on his member, now standing erect at 9 inches. "Naruto-kun," Tenten whispered, before removing her hand. She then proceeded to lick his dick, running her tongue along it. At the same time, Temari enveloped his dick's head, and sucked on it. Naruto gripped the sheets of the bed tightly as he moaned. They continued to lick and suck on his dick as the pressure built, both satisfied at having Naruto under their control given that they were given Ino's description of his dominance that day. Soon, the pressure built to beyond what Naruto could control, and he shot his semen up onto both their faces. They deftly licked it off, enjoying the taste as they decided to get to it. Both being virgins, they raced for the prize, each wanting it first. Tenten quickly placed herself over his deek, before roughly moving the head into her. She moaned, but Naruto was not paying attention to her so much as he now was to Temari, as since she couldn't have his dick, she wanted his tongue. Crouching over Naruto, Temari put her clit directly in front of Naruto's head, before ramming it into her pussy. She soon felt Naruto's tongue entering her, eliciting a moan from her, then a scream when he nibbled on the little mound of flesh in there, her clitoris. Continuing to nibble on it, Temari was screaming her head off, while Tenten soon joined her cries as she pushed herself all the way down onto her, breaking her. Temari let loose an orgasm, her juices covering Naruto's face, not that he minded. Temari then got off of him, and winked at Tenten, who feebly acknowledged with a nod as Naruto looked at her. She had begun pumping on her own, her breasts bouncing with each push. Arching his back, Naruto grabbed hold of her breasts, before joining her, thrusting himself up and down as he filled her pussy. Creating a clone, Naruto had it massage Tenten's shoulders as she bounced up and down on Naruto's dick, screaming louder and louder. Arching up further, Naruto took Tenten's left tit into his mouth, his right hand caressing her other breast while his left hand grasped her but firmly, allowing him to put more power into each of his ever-increasing amount of thrusts. Soon, the screaming stopped for a moment, as Tenten arched her back, and came. "Naruto-kun," she screamed, while Naruto took the opportunity to loudly moan out her name, though it couldn't be heard over her. Tenten soon removed herself tiredly from his dick, as Temari came up behind her and punched the clone in the face, causing Naruto to wince as the memory returned. "I want only you, and all of you," Temari said forcefully. However, Naruto was tired of the submissive game, and knew Temari liked strong men. Getting up from his spot on the bed, Naruto grasped Temari's breasts with both hands, and at the same time brought the head of his dick to her pussy. Pumping into her, he didn't even let her get adjusted before he continued to pump in and out, having quickly broken her wall. Temari shrieked and moaned at the same time, before leaping into Naruto's arms. He grabbed her legs under the thighs and supported her against a wall nearby, at the same time enveloping her lip in a kiss. She moaned into the kiss as their tongues danced, before Tenten came over to them and interrupted. Massaging Naruto's shoulders, she gave Temari a glare for having partially taken away Naruto when she broke her virginity, and proceeded to plant kisses on his neck. Grabbing her hand, Naruto led Tenten to the bed, still carrying Temari. Throwing the blonde-haired goddess down onto the bed, he continued to pump into her as she drew hold on his shoulders, forcing him to come forward harder. At the same time, he took his left hand and put 2 fingers into Tenten's pussy, and his pinky into her ass. She moaned out his name as he continued pumping with both his hand and fingers. Soon, Temari's moaning had increased in volume until it had become hard to hear anything else. Pushing into her still harder, he knew he was reaching his limit, as was she. They climaxed one after the other, Temari coming first as she arched her back and dug her nails into Naruto's shoulders. Flooding out of her, Naruto pulled out his dick and bent down, lapping up her juices. Immediately after, Tenten whined, as Naruto had stopped pumping with his fingers. Turning to her, he gave her a wink and then shoved his dick into her pussy, as she shrieked in pleasure. Moments later, the pressure that had been built came again full strength, and she came once again. Naruto was about to start in on her again, but was pulled down to the bed again by Temari, flipping him onto his back. Tenten and Temari looked at each other, then winking mischievously, started in on Naruto again. It was a very, very long night of fucking. End lemons. Next day, Temari and Tenten came down from Naruto's room, walking a bit awkwardly, for breakfast. Naruto soon followed them, but he was barely making his way downstairs and looked awful, whereas Tenten and Temari just had satisfied looks on their faces, a look that Ino and Hinata now knew well. "Well, I'd say I'm good for another few days. Then I'm ready for another round," Tenten said, before Naruto looked at her in horror. Hinata giggled. "You know most guys would kill to be in your position, right?" she said, and of course this just had Naruto sigh in defeat, which caused her to giggle again. "Don't worry, we'll give you a few days to recover," Temari said reassuringly. Naruto was about to sit down to eat, when he was stopped by Hinata, who held her hand out to him. He took it, and Hinata looked into his eyes dreamily. "I wanted to give everyone a chance to have you at least once before I announced this. I'm pregnant." The other 3 girls were cheering while Naruto's eyes popped out of his head. Before he hugged Hinata so tightly he would have broken her in half if Temari hadn't pulled him off. "That's great. I'm gonna be a father." Naruto shouted, though not too loudly. We'll have to make preparations, of course. I want a child soon too. Tenten remarked casually. Ino nodded, she wanted a kid too, and Temari just remarked along with them, I want one too then. At least then they'll all have someone to play with when they're young. Thus, some fertility drugs, lots of sex, and one exhausted Naruto later, all of the 4 of his wives were pregnant, and all was well with the world. 9 months later, by some miracle, all 4 of Naruto's wives were delivering kids at the same time. At this point, suspicions against Dust were rising and their new Kage, Uchiha Sasuke, had been threatening Konoha with attacks. Of course, Naruto felt that if they were to encounter each other again, he would be able to defeat him, however something he didn't expect was coming for him. Hissing above the gates, the gigantic 8-headed snake, the Hachibi no Hibi. We must defend the village until the Hokage arrives. A Jounin yelled out, as the assault on the great snake continued. Atop the snake stood Konoha's greatest enemy, Uchiha Sasuke. His voice rung out over the ranks of shinobi. Bring forth your great Rokudame. He is no match for the 8-tailed snake demon. The assault continued, as Naruto stood just inside the room of his 4 wives. He had just taken the newly born children into his arms, hugging and kissing each of them, before giving them back to their respective mothers. As Naruto left the room, he closed the door and said to himself, Forgive me, Hyuga Hikaru, Sabaka no Yakutu, Iketana Masama, Yamanaka Inoshu, I only hope I survive to see you again. If not, live good lives, I love you all. Leaving the hospital, Naruto formed 5 hand seals and yelled, Kuchios no Jutsu, and the sloth queen Folarvora arrived. Atop her head Naruto stood, and he pointed towards the giant snake. Folarvora nodded and jumped with surprising speed and agility, landing directly in front of the snake, between it and Konoha. From down below someone could hear the injured ANBU commander, Shinomura Asaka, shout to the ranks, Retreat. The Rokudame is here, he will do it. Immediately, the remaining ninja retreated, bringing with them the injured and the dead whose bodies were still intact. Naruto stood, 150 feet in the air, on top of his summon, level with Sasuke and his snake. Sasuke held an arrogant smirk, his Sharingan active, Manjikyu. Well, so the great Naruto had revealed himself. I was beginning to wonder. How many of your ninja I would have to kill before you showed yourself? Naruto remained silent, as he lit all 100 of his eye seals, then changed them. His eyes became something Sasuke didn't remember from last time, a level of the Fuingen that Folavora hadn't even had, because she hadn't known it existed. Sasuke. You have brought this upon yourself. Your attempt on my life nearly 5 years ago brought me to train to this level, something even you cannot counter. Prepare to meet the Reaper. Fuingen, Reaper Seal Eye. Naruto's eyes were no longer spirals of kanji, they were just 2 voids with one small spiral in the middle, not even visible from where Sasuke was standing. Now I end this. Kenjutsu Fuin, 1000 soul sacrifice, Hak no Fuin Shiki. The death god appeared, only visible to the demon, Folavora, who helped Naruto by supplying power, Sasuke, and the Hachibi. Offering 1000 souls, all of Chunin level ninja or higher from Ki, its entire supply from over 200 years of history, since Konoha's creation, Naruto felt an extra pull on the sword. He let the sword go, and watched as it, 1000 souls, and the souls of Sasuke and the Hachibi were pulled into the death god's stomach to be tortured for all eternity. After consuming them, the death god turned to Naruto and spoke in a hollow voice. Young one, due to your offering, I will not take your soul, but you have breached the point of power for humans, much like your father did. To pay for it, he gave his life, however. I saw what this did to you. Thus, I will not take your soul, but I will take your power. Neither you nor your offspring will ever be able to gain the true Fuingen again. With that, the death god reached out and took something from Naruto's eyes. Suddenly, they reverted to the first-level Fuingen again, green with black slits, the white kanji for seal in the middle. The now first, and only level of the Fuingen. He found he couldn't even push it beyond that, and had he been an Uchiha, would have mourned the loss of power. However, he was just happy it worked. Feeling completely drained, Fallavora left, dropping Naruto's body to the ground. 3 ninja emerged from the gates, soon followed by the rest of the active ninja, and hundreds were now crowded around the Rokudame. Naruto slowly got to his feet, staring at the crowd around him, and for once, felt truly whole. In his lifetime he had effectively defeated the most feared criminals in the world, including Uchiha Sasuke, effectively killed the 2 strongest demons in history, united the clans under Plan Zeta, and had a beautiful loving family, 4 wives, and 4 children, 2 boys 2 girls. He was complete, and all that was left to live, in peace, and raise his kids, all that was left, was to live life. Opening his eyes, he revealed his cerulean blues, and spoke softly, "I was right. You can change your fate." Series ends here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.